genocide in the country. Government hosted a state of readiness media briefing at the Nasrec Expo Centre in the south of Johannesburg today. Nugukanya Mdambo is there.
South Africa has shrugged off the US's tantrum, assuring global leaders that the show will go on even without a delegation from Washington. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola.
They are not attending. You can call it whatever. Someone can call it a boycott, someone will call it non-attendance, but the reality is that they are not attending, they are not here. We view it as non-attendance. They are absent. So we have focused on the job. We have done the job.
Lamola says 4 other heads of state will also give the summit a skip, but that their countries will be represented at the foreign ministers' level. This includes China, Mexico, Argentina and Russia.
We don't see this as a snub or undermining of Africa.
With sufficient consensus, the member states present would be able to agree on a declaration. Nogukanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News at Nasrec.
It has emerged before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry this afternoon that at least 120 dockets investigated by the KZN Political Killings Task Team had serious shortcomings. The revelation was made by the SAPS's component head for serious and violent crime investigation, Mary Mutsipe, who concluded her testimony before the inquiry today. She says earlier this year, during an audit of the dockets and SAPS national headquarters, several faults that compromise some of the cases were identified. Oren Singh has more.
During a testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Major General Mary Motsepe revealed several discrepancies and shortcomings identified in some of the 121 dockets that were being investigated by the PKTT. The dockets arrived at national headquarters for auditing purposes in March this year. They were only handed back to the PKTT in August. She said in some instances it seemed that cases were being stalled.
The oldest docket is from 2016, where suspects were identified through Section 25 Sapuna, but the suspects were not arrested. We are now at 2025, but the last entry in the docket, it was 2023.
She claims in some instances the prosecutor's instructions were not followed, resulting in cases being unable to proceed to court. Oren Singh, Eyewitness News.
To this now, the inquiry into suspended Johannesburg Prosecutions boss, Advocate Enru Chau, has poured cold water on a request by Advocate Shamila Batoyi regarding the hearings. The inquiry off to a slow start today, beginning 3 hours late due to a meeting between the parties on how proceedings will be run. Chau was suspended in July after Batoyi lodged a complaint against him to President Cyril Ramaphosa. The president suspended Chau pending the inquiry into his fitness to hold office. Once the hearings got underway today, evidence leader Advocate David Motlamanyane addressed a request by Batoyi to testify with no breaks in between. The inquiry's chair, retired Justice Besson Kabinde, responded.
It is not for Advocate Batoyi to decide how we are going to proceed in this inquiry. When she's called to testify, she will come and testify, and should come to testify. What will then happen at the end of her testimony will be decided.
The ANC has resolved that at least 70% of its candidates for the upcoming local government elections must have prior experience in government. The party's electoral committee has released the minimum criteria that members must meet to qualify for seats in municipal councils. This is aimed at ensuring the ANC's candidate lists are made up of qualified, experienced and capable councillors. Speaking at a media briefing today, ANC Electoral Committee Chairperson Kgalema Motlanthe stressed that the majority of candidates must be well versed in governance.
This does not, of course, mean that we retain 70% of current councillors. It means casting the net as widely as possible to find all the best talent we have deployed over the years in all parts of government.
And Bangladesh has demanded that India extradite ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The call comes hours after she was sentenced to hang for crimes against humanity. The court sentenced Hasina as well as the former Interior Minister to death in absentia. Hasina fled to India after her ouster in a mass uprising in August of 2024, fraying relations between the two countries. Hasina's 15-year tenure saw widespread human rights abuses, including the mass detention and killings of her political opponents. Last year, Bangladesh said it would request an Interpol red notice for Hasina, but there was no record on the global police body alert law enforcement list. Gold is trading at $4,057.48 an ounce. The rand is at 17.09 to the dollar, 22.46 to the pound, 19.83 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.78 a barrel.
Heading towards Alberton, there's an accident seen in the Gilview area that's leaving Soweto N12 eastbound just after Kliprefir Drive, causing huge delays 4 ways. Also, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie, and in Calvin Alex area we still have those roadworks slowing down traffic. N3 southbound between the Butler Interchange and London Road.
In your sport, Themba Bavuma reflects on historic win for the Proteas in their first test against India. Nigeria coach blames voodoo after their FIFA World Cup hopes are crushed, and Hugo Bruce hails Debogo Mokoena after 50 caps milestone.
It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: South Africa has dismissed concerns about the non-attendance of a handful of G20 leaders at the Leaders Summit taking place this weekend.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Very good afternoon, everyone. It's 7 minutes past 3 on Monday, the 17th of November. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. Hope your weekend was excellent in spite of the cold and wet weather. More to come in terms of rain, although it is expected to get a little bit warmer over the next couple of days. And my thanks to Khomotso Modise and Tabo Shole Mashao, allowing me to spend a week away and enjoy the extraordinary beauty of Mpumalanga, where I have to say it was a lot hotter. Some of the stuff we're covering today: the G20 is taking shape with greater clarity on who is coming and who isn't. Nokukanya Mtambo was there to hear from DIRCO Minister Ronald Lamula when he spoke earlier. Her summary of where we stand right now coming up shortly. Big changes afoot in rugby with the announcement today of the Nations Championship that will see the top 12 countries in the world playing each other from the middle of next year. A good thing, a bad thing, or just another thing maybe? More on that after 4. Hopefully, most of the games, at least, we will be allowed to play with 15 players. But seriously, though, what normally happens, as I understand it, is countries tour South Africa, Australia, New Zealand at the beginning of our winter, and then we all go across the southern hemisphere countries, that is, to the northern hemisphere, which is exactly what we're doing now, as are the Wallabies, All Blacks and others. But this is now going to be formalized into a competition. Details are interesting. Good idea? Well, I'm not so sure. And the inner workings of the political killings task team are in the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission today. More on that with our EWN colleague Oren Singh. We've got all that and a whole lot more on 702 Drive, including breaking news from the roads in our regular traffic updates, and the latest from the market. Speaking of which, the JSE is starting the week in the black, up by just 210 points, which isn't a great deal, but hey, a win is a win. Sasol is up by 4%, Outsurance by 2.9%, and Capitec by 2.4% on a day when financial services stocks, the financial index, doing generally quite well, up by 1.8%. Rand is currently trading at 17 Rand and 7 cents against the US dollar. A euro will cost you 19 Rand 80, 22 Rand 50 will get you a pound. The oil price is up by 6 cents, with Brent crude currently trading at $64.24 a barrel. Stephen Curtis joining us with all the details at 4:25. We'll get sport with Tolakele Mganga. Mbali Dlamini has the latest news headlines. Karabo Chale keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We are live in the place where you live. If it's happening in 702 land, you will get to hear about it here first. But that doesn't mean that you won't hear about it before we do, because there's plenty of stuff happening in the place where you live, stuff that is traveling down your particular strand of the grapevine. We'd love to hear from you if you know something that we don't know. 072 702 1702 or 011 883 0702. So, lots to talk about, lots to inquire about, lots to think about it. And when it comes to thoughts, often the most interesting thoughts are the most random. Now, somebody happened to mention somebody that both of us, i.e. the person I was talking to and I, had spent some time with, a couple of months back. And I reflected on the fact that they were really nice, but at times their niceness became quite intrusive because they were just constantly being nice. So you'd be carrying, maybe a 6-pack of beer walking towards the braai, and then a shopping bag under the other arm. And then they would kind of jump in and say, let me help you with that. Can I help you? You see, and sometimes they'd even say things, you seem to be struggling. Now, maybe this is just a little pride thing with me, but I definitely wasn't struggling. It was like kind of, where were you when, I had my keys in my mouth and I was trying to reach for the, we all get in those situations. So I wondered about it because you prefer, I think in general, nice people trying to be nice to people who aren't trying to be nice and may even be trying to be awful. But is there a kind of a niceness that can just be too much?
Are you talking about parking lot attendants?
No, because that's an incidental contact, and I get it that they're hustling,
all right,
and they they look after the car and they want to help because they're hoping that they're in bad straits. You seem to be doing better because you're carrying goods to a car, so you may have some change that you'd be willing to share with them. No. I'm talking about people who you kind of know, but you're in a social engagement with. No?
That's a tough one.
Can't be too nice for you.
Well, I was going to say waiters until I understood what you were talking about. Waiters can be a bit too nice sometimes, to the level of being annoying, in a sense where you'll just start eating your food and already they're there and how are you enjoying your food and stuff like that. But in a personal kind of vibe, maybe what I find annoying is my friends, when they introduce me to their friends in a social gathering, they'll be like, this is Karabo, he works at 702. And I'm like, really? And then the whole atmosphere changes because everybody gets excited and then everybody gets...
So what's Clement like, for example?
Exactly. And then they're like,
Clement sounds really nice.
And then they just get overly... nice to you, and sometimes it's like, are you really that nice to me, or is it because? So I always tell my friends, please don't mention where I work or what.
Yeah, it's an interesting one now. That we've got a quick response from Temba to the question which was posted on our socials. Can some people be so nice that they become annoying? And Temba says, only if you have a toxic mind.
Oh, wow.
Yo. Okay, so Temba's very clear on that. How about you, Refuwe? Refuwe Litsua, putting the show together as always with Jonathan Fairburn. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Welcome back, and to the rest of the 702 family. So I'm a recovering, overly nice person.
Okay.
And I can only speak as someone that's in recovery about you mean well, but then sometimes it's not received well. Because I remember there was a girl that gave me feedback. I was shocked. She's like, you're being nice, but it's intrusive. I hate it.
Yes.
And I was like,
okay.
I was like, I was taken aback. So I think sometimes we mean well, but it's also a boundary thing sometimes, because you want to feel, I'm going to help John now. You want to feel useful also. You are too thoughtful. And then other people just think you're just like, it's too much.
Yes.
You give too much of yourself to a point where you're just pouring out of an empty cup without knowing it. So
you are 3 spoons of sugar when I normally take 1. It's too sweet.
It's too much.
Okay. But, hey, if you're one of those nice people, fight your corner, hey? Stop being nice and tell us that people like us who are getting grumpy are ungrateful, although Refuwe does say that she herself is recovering. Then Jonathan says, not our Jonathan says, yes, especially if they are nicer than you. And that makes you feel bad about yourself. You know, the other thing where this can be an issue, and I just want to add this as a layer, is sometimes it's quite nice to be a bit gossipy and like, you know, when somebody does need a bit of a strip torn off them, and then the person at the table says, well, I don't think we should speak badly of other people or whatever. That can be a downer, hey? If you like a bit of
Potty pooper.
If you like a bit of a Skinner.
Yeah, we all like a little bit of a Skinner.
That doesn't help. Give us your thoughts, please. 072702. I'm still laughing at what Jonathan posted. 072-702-1702 and 011-883-0702. We'd like to hear from you. Let's hear about what's happening out on the roads where I think you can never be too nice, really.
I think you should be too nice on the road. I think you should be overly nice because the roads can be very dangerous and you must be kind to each other. At this stage, no accidents, I must say, thank goodness, on our roads. But we have those delays in the Gilview area, N12 eastbound. That's approaching Kliprefir Drive. Allow for extra traveling time if you're leaving Soweto heading towards the Germiston area. Also, four ways traffic heavily backed up on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie in the Calvin area. That's traveling through Alex Roadworks, causing heavy delays on the N3 southbound between the Butlu Interchange and London Road. And in four ways, Witkoppen traffic lights not working approaching Cedar. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Some of you responding to our question about being too nice. Vuyo says nice people are usually rolling incognito. There's usually something they want to gain. Joey says as crazy as taxi drivers are, they're the only ones who say thank you when you let them through. Really? Nicer than your ordinary driver? Not so sure about that, Joey. I find a lot of people are courteous, flash their lights and so on. Yeah, okay. We'll get to that a little bit later. Taxi drivers and yielding of space. Perhaps a whole topic on its own. And Angie says, John, in block capitals, 3 exclamation marks. Okay. The issue of can I help you is the exact reason why some women get offended by chivalry. Some guys will ask, can I help you open the door, implying she is incapable of doing it herself, instead of asking, can I get the door for you, or may I open the door for you? So maybe an engagement before you do it. Anyway, I like opening doors for people. 19 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, we should be opening doors for a huge number of people coming out for the G20 Leaders Summit, but there has been some concern expressed about some senior heads of state who won't be attending. Russia, Mexico, and Argentina will not be represented by their heads of state. And then, of course, as we know and as has been expected for a long time, U.S. participation being kept to a minimum or maybe none at all. Let's find out the exact details, because the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, was today giving an update out at the Joburg Expo Center, where everything's going to happen over the weekend. Giving an update on who's coming, who's not, and what it all means. Noko Kanya Mtambo, our EWN business reporter, was there to try and make some sense of it all. Noko Kanya, very good afternoon to you. What is the latest on the guest list, and what is the latest on the interpretation of the guest list? They seem to go together.
Yeah, interesting questions. Good afternoon, John. Let me start with the actual guest list itself. Yes. We've got a total of about 42 countries that are expected to come, 20, of course, of which are part of the G20 bloc, and then the rest would be invited guests, friends of South Africa and friends of the bloc itself that will come to that final leader summit in I almost said in November, on Saturday and Sunday. Now, of course, you've already mentioned that there will be no participation, or a minimum, you said, when it comes to the US. We've gone from a minimum participation throughout the year because even though maybe not at the ministerial level, we have had participation from the US at the different working streams throughout the year. This time around, we've gone from minimum to none at all because, of course, of that barring order from US President Donald Trump when he said none of the US officials would be allowed to come. The question then becomes what happens when we have to hand over, because of course the US is the next in line for the presidency going into next year. President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to hand over to an empty chair. It's a ceremonial process. It's a ceremonial process.
Literally an empty chair.
Literally an empty chair, because there will be no US officials at all. But of course there are other processes. Because we are the current president now, the US or the next, and then we've got the UK right after the US. We are part of the Troika, who are responsible really for taking the policy discussions forward going into whichever presidency. Okay. And so the conversations between South Africa and the US won't end just at the end of our presidency. So that means there is still an opportunity for South Africa to then have a conversation about how the US takes it forward. And then in terms of the other countries that you've mentioned, Mexico, Argentina, China and Russia, those are the four that won't be represented by the heads of state, but that there will be delegations from those four different countries, particularly at the ministerial level. China will send the Premier Li to participate, and then the others will send their foreign ministers. So that's where we stand with the guest list. And then, of course, again, like I mentioned, the invited guests throughout, taking part throughout the weekend.
So look, I mean, if you are hosting as we are, if you've been head of the G20 as we have been over the past year, soon to come to an end, you can't very well look down in the mouth about this. But I get that a degree of spin is required. But they do seem to be quite assertive about the fact that important discussions will be held, important conversations have been held, policies have been battered around and hopefully sharpened and ideally made implementable rather than, just a set of nice, bright ideas. But the South African people, like the Minister of Durko, for example, does sound quite positive. This has all been worth it. It will be worth it. And then life goes on. Yeah.
I think they are upbeat, John, about what outcomes we'll get at the end of Sunday. So, of course, what we are hoping for is to come out with a declaration. And that, of course, would have all of the geopolitical issues that we want to challenge, the global challenges that we want to address as a bloc. If in any instance we don't manage to secure a declaration, there is still the option of a chair's summary, which again would be driven by South Africa, and still again just highlighting what it is that we want to tackle, what it is that we want to take forward. So it will be one of those two. There will certainly be a document at the end of Sunday's proceedings, and that's the reassurance that we got from Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, who was also part of the meeting that we were in just now, Ronald Damula, Durko Minister as well, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, all confident that we certainly will have a document. We are in the final stages of the negotiations. There are conversations at the moment happening in the Sherpa track that started yesterday with day one. And again, that's just the finalization of what the declaration would look like. We're just starting to draft what that final declaration would be like. So those conversations, John, will happen all the way until Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, the declaration, if we are able to secure one, will then come out on Saturday, Sunday.
I'm really hoping that, there's obviously declarations, and declarations get made all the time, all over the world on a huge range of issues. And I guess they do influence in some ways the way people frame problems and frame potential solutions. But I don't know if we'll only find out about this later, Nokukanya, but maybe you've got an impression already. I would think when people gather in this way, there are a whole set of informal conversations that are as important as the speeches and declarations from public platforms, so that people, for example, who are interested in particular kinds of energy solutions are meeting up and are making plans to do things maybe not as a G20, but as groups of 2-3 institutions or countries, whatever. Do you get a sense of positivity around that from people who've participated, saying, listen, this has been a really special year in terms of making those kinds of contacts, which may lead to certain kinds of plans and outcomes?
I think there is, John, some sort of commitment from the G20 member states and even outside. Like I mentioned, we've got invited guests, the friends of South Africa and the rest of the bloc that are participating. And what we've had throughout the course of the year, outside of the formal G20 meetings, we've had more than 130 since we assumed the presidency last year in December.
Right.
And what we've had throughout the course of the year, John, were bilateral meetings as well, taking part on the sidelines of those G20 meetings. And that's where we saw some of those conversations happening. So our relationship with France, even outside of the G20 bloc, what that looks like, what sort of partnership, what investments that we want to have. Likewise with all the other countries as well. There's also been a heavy focus, John, on Africa and the Africa agenda. So South Africa wanting to strengthen its relationship with the rest of the continent, how we do business with the rest of the continent, trade, our cooperation with the other countries on the African continent as well. And so again, throughout the course of the year, those bilateral conversations have certainly been taking place. One of the other interesting questions we had for the two ministers, Minister Gauteng as well as Lamula, today when we were speaking to them, John, was the conversation about how these policy priorities are taken forward, whether in the context of G20 or even outside, especially when you look at the relationship with between that Trump has with the rest of the African continent, and his sort of stance when it comes to Africa. And the response really is, with or without Trump, with or without the G20, these conversations are ongoing. They're long-term conversations. We don't drop them at the end of our presidency. And so those conversations certainly will continue.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting week. And we, by the way, are going to be bringing you shows live from the G20 itself over the weekend. We have Moteo Juaripe shortly on the show talking about the B20, which is ahead of the actual gathering of heads of state and foreign ministers over the weekend. And the other angle on this, of course, by the way, and thanks to Noko Kanyu, who's going to be keeping a close eye on all of this and regularly on the show throughout the week. But I'm interested to know as well, how do you feel about the spiffing up of Johannesburg? I came in, having been in Mpumalanga for a week in the Kruger Park, but as part of my way home, I came down Sylvia's Pass. And please, nobody must go down Sylvia's Pass who is visiting here. I think it's difficult. So, I mean, what on earth is happening to that road? Anyway, they haven't got around to spiffing that up, perhaps because they might have to do a rebuild rather than a refurb. But that's a conversation for another day, unless you live in the area. You want to give me a call about that. But are you kind of pleased that, well, you know, it took a party to get us to, buy some new crockery and cutlery, if you use the analogy, from home? Or is it actually quite irritating because the stuff ought to be done as a matter of routine? So give us your thoughts. I saw something in Daily Maverick. I can't remember who said it. It said putting lipstick on a pothole, which is a reworked version of another phrase that is often quite popular. But call me on that and your WhatsApps, please, to 072 702 1702. Can people be too nice to the point where they become a little bit annoying? And KG says, yep, have you ever walked with a person that greets everybody on the streets and stops every time for a chit chat? I was spent some time with somebody who, whenever anybody passed, we were seated somewhere and we were having a lot of meals out, saying, whoever passed said, can I buy you a coffee? Do you want to join us? And I really wanted to spend time just with them, but that was just their default because nobody ever stopped. I think they knew it's just his way of saying, how are you doing? We must get together. But in the beginning, I thought, oh my goodness, how many of these people are actually going to join us? Chiz says, good morning messages every morning. Is it really necessary? Says Precious in Greenstone. Keep those coming, please. It's 3:30 on 702 Drive. It's news time. Right, let's get the very latest from Mbali Dlamini. Some updates from an important Western Cape court case, I believe. Good afternoon.
That's correct, John. A very good afternoon. Let's begin in the Western Cape High Court, where the prosecution team in the trial of alleged Underworld gang boss Nafees Modak has set out to prove that he was involved in an attack on prominent criminal defense attorney William Booth. Modak and 14 others face 122 charges for various crimes related to allegedly operating a criminal enterprise. The charges include the attempted murder of Booth at his home 5 years ago. Carlo Peterson reports.
State Prosecutor Greg Volmerans used evidence extracted from co-accuser in Killian's cell phone today to show Nafees Modak was behind an attempt on attorney William Booth's life in April 2020. Modak and Killian, along with 4 other co-accused, face charges of attempted murder related to the shooting. Volmerans showed the court screenshots from Killian's phone, which show he was pinging Booth and one of his clients, a former state witness who can only be identified as Mr. C. Modak told the court he was hired to perform a debt collection from Mr. C in March 2020. However, he denies asking Killian to ping Booth and Mr. C.
They want you, Naf, to have Valley pinged. Not even pinged. At the very least, they want you to organize that Valley be pinged. That's not true.
The trial continues. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
Parliament says its delegation to the 30th conference of the parties will learn from best practices on how to mitigate the impact of climate change. The 10-member delegation comprises of different political parties at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is taking place in Brazil. The summit is entering its second week, with countries wanting to establish how a global phase-out of fossil fuels could work. Babalondenze has more.
COP30 is the international forum where countries gather to find legally binding or non-binding courses of action to address the climate crisis. South Africa has been an active participant to represent the country's interests, like securing climate finance and how the country can address its own unique climate change challenges, like flooding disasters. The 10-member delegation comprises 5 members each from the National Assembly's Portfolio Committee on Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, and the National Council of Provinces Select Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Mineral Resources. Parliament spokesperson Moloto Motapo says South African MPs will have an opportunity to learn from the experiences and best practices of other parliaments in addressing climate change. He says through such engagements with their international counterparts, the country's lawmakers can gain valuable insights into innovative approaches to legislation, policy frameworks, and financing. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News.
And in Nigeria, gunmen have kidnapped 25 girls from a government boarding school in the northwestern part of the country. It's understood the criminals reportedly killed a teacher and a local guard during the invasion. This latest attack comes more than a decade after nearly 300 girls were abducted from a school in Chibok, and which sparked international outcry. Police say tactical units and military personnel have now been deployed to that area in a bid to rescue the abducted students. It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with scattered showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 17 and 18 degrees.
In Pretoria, Linwood, there's an accident seen on the N1 southbound near Linwood Road, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus interchange, while in Gilview, south of Joburg, if you're heading towards Alberton, leaving Soweto, there's an accident seen N12 eastbound just after Kliprefir Drive, causing huge delays.
The top story in EWN, the prosecution team in the trial of alleged Underworld gang boss Nafees Modak has set out to prove he was involved in an attack on prominent criminal defense attorney William Booth.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Is there any criminal case that is open against this Tabo Homalaka for all these allegations of corruption and wanting to bribe a journalist? Because that video that was released after your interaction with her, I mean, everybody was just shocked, and she tried to sort of justify. It just didn't make sense still.
There's another team looking at the video angle. So the alleged bribery investigation, and that is an active Hawks investigation, and then a separate Hawks investigation is ongoing into the EPWP contract and the property and those kind of financial dealings.
Peter Louis Maibeg, an investigative journalist with the Daily Maverick.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
As leaders in renewable energy finance,
Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Sana, she said that till slip is like the N1 highway. It's long. Thanks, Captain Obvious. I got it. It's why I got the new discount better rewards card that gets me 10% off instantly on over 140 brands. And then, does he not tell me over 140 brands means thousands of products? Exactly. That's why your discount till slip never looked better. Injalo ke sana.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
Steve, you moved to Momentum. Congrats.
Thanks.
It's Tasha. Listen, the fast-paced life in Josie just isn't working for me. I'm migrating to the Cape.
What does that have to do with life insurance?
Well, you know I love a glass or three. And I want to age as graciously as a smooth Merlot, not a box of cardboard dough.
Naturally.
And I need my critical illness cover to pair with those chill vibes.
Of course. With Momentum, you get the most comprehensive critical illness cover in the market. You could say it's a full-bodied offering.
I'll toast to that.
Chat to your financial advisor about Momentum's critical illness cover. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John. You asked a very good question about people being too nice, which can lead to invasiveness and intrusion. An incident, or rather a circumstance that comes to mind, is going to a bookshop, and generally the owners or those working at bookstores, bookshops are generally nice people by default. But it can happen when you simply want to peruse through the bookstore, try and find a good book to purchase. But because these owners or these those working at bookstores are so good people, they keep on asking you, have you found something? Can I help you find a book? And that often leads to intrusion and invasiveness, which can be very irritating. So when you asked that question, this came to mind. Thank you so much. Mohammedia from Benoni.
Hi, John. It's Cecil Mato in Deep Kloof, Soweto. I think it's about personal space you're talking about, really. People who try to be very nice and tend to be too nice take over your sense of independence, your agency, really. And I experience a lot of that, being albino and very short-sighted. And I'm in situations where people will try to help me cross the street as if I haven't done that for 50 years. Or in the library, somebody asking me why I don't wear specs. It's okay, people being nice, but when they're being too nice, they take over your space, and I almost want to clap them away.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a high level of annoyance, but very, very interesting points. If you've just joined us, the question I asked was, is it possible for people to be so nice that in fact they end up actually annoying other people because there's just too much of it? Eugene is conditional in his response and says, only if you sense that it is insincere. Mamotlatsi also focuses on the question of sincerity and says, most of the time it's when they're fake nice, pretending to be nice, it becomes annoying because it's forced and it's not the real you. That's what I have noticed. Gavin says narcissistic behavior. And we've got a couple of you commenting on people not attending the G20, where Ranga Naiti says, as for the US not attending G20, I don't think it's about South Africa. US President Trump doesn't respect Africa. Even if it was Kenya or Ethiopia, he still wouldn't have attended. I'm not so sure about that. I think there's a very particular political conversation going on in relation to us in the White House that is about South Africa. I get that there may well be other disparaging views of Africa, and the president of the US has previous on that, as we all well know. But I'm not sure. I think this one is about us, very much so. That's my view. Yours, please, on 072 702 1702. It's 20 to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kele, what a performance by the Proteas cricket team. You are going to kick us off with your bulletin today with exactly that. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And Shukri Conrad has hailed Captain Themba Bavuma as one of the best batters in the world. That's after his match-winning innings secured a 30-run win for the Proteas in the first test against India. Bavuma remains unbeaten in his 11 test matches, and he's unbeaten 55 in the second innings, helped set a victory target of 124 for their hosts, who were then bowled out for just 93.
I find it a bit tricky to trust the bounce of the wicket. Some balls were bouncing nicely, others were squatting, so that was a bit tricky, which made your cross-batted shots a bit harder. But look, I'm a guy, I'll always back my defense. And my game is that simple. I try to play around my defense. This morning, like I said, I thought it was a better wicket this morning. It would have been nice on our side if we had wickets. I think we would have been able to get more than just at the 125.
Bafana finished their AFCON 2025 preparations with a 3-1 win over Zambia in a friendly that was played at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on Saturday. That clash also saw Teboho Mokoena earn his 50th cap for the national team, and coach Hugo Bruce has paid him this tribute.
Everybody knows that Teboho became a very important player for us. And you saw that also the second half, we missed the intelligence of the game of Teboho. I congratulate him, certainly. It's not given to everyone to have 50, and now he will even have more international games. So Teboho become little by little one of the important South African national team players.
Nigeria head coach Eric Chau has accused the Democratic Republic of Congo of practicing voodoo. That's after his squad's hopes of qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup ended in a penalty shootout loss. The African playoffs final game ended in a 1-1 draw after extra time, and then the Central Africans went on to win 4-3 on penalties as they book a place in the Confederation playoffs next month.
During all the penalty decision, a guy of Congo did some voodoo every time. So this is why I was a little nervous after him. Yeah, something like that, with the I don't know if it's a water or something like that, so I don't.
In Europe, Portugal booked their ticket to the World Cup with a 9-1 victory over Armenia, while an Erling Haaland brace sealed Norway's place following a 4-1 victory over Italy. It's their first qualification since 1998. And in rugby, the Springboks have added Bongi Mbonambi and Dutugo Mchunu to their squad ahead of the Autumn Nations Series test against Ireland and Wales. At the same time, World Rugby has confirmed that the double world champions will take on England, Scotland and Wales in July next year. That's in the inaugural edition of the Nations Championship. The 12-team competition will conclude at Twickenham in November 2026, with the top-ranked team in the Northern and Southern Hemisphere battling it out for the title. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Right, let's get out onto the roads one more time with Karabo Chale. Not for the first time, not for the last. What's happening now?
Well, wet, slippery roads in rainy Gauteng, so please allow for extra traveling time and maintain a safe following distance. And remember to keep your headlights on. At this stage, John, we have an accident scene in the Linwood area, Pretoria. This is on the N1 southbound near Linwood Road, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proefplaas interchange. Gilview, Joburg, leaving Soweto, heading towards Alberton. Also accident scene N12 East, just after Kliprivier Drive, causing huge delays, while in four-ways traffic heavily backed up on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie. And Calvin Alex, roadworks causing heavy delays. N3 southbound between the Batcree Interchange and London Road. And in Kempton Park, traffic is sluggish on the R24 westbound between the R21 and Barbara Road due to ongoing roadworks. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 4:45. Tolakele, can people be too nice? So nice, in fact, that their niceness almost becomes annoying. And how do you tell them that?
Oh, John, why the last one? Yes, they can be too nice because you know how society always tells us like be kind, but you also need to kind of have boundaries as a person, because if you are too kind all of the time, people take advantage of it. And also it gets to the point where, unfortunately, you can't be everything to everybody. People are never satisfied. So once you learn how to draw that line, it's easier to know what the limits of your kindness are. How do you tell someone they're being too nice? I don't know if you really can. I think those things a person has to develop and figure out for themselves, because your end limit of niceness might not be someone else's end limit of it. They might look at you and say, oh, that's a bit selfish. So you've got to let them decide what their boundaries and their limits are, and they take it from there.
Is one of the things that comes up, I mean, I'm interested in both of your views. For example, if you're always full of praise for everyone about everything, you almost devalue the value of the compliment you're giving. You know, if someone says, what you did was so incredibly brilliant, and you knew that, you did it fine, but it wasn't your A game, you know, or even close to it. And yet, at the same time, people are getting messages, and I'm thinking particularly of younger people figuring out who they're going to be in the world, is be positive, give people positive feedback, you know. So then I can imagine somebody saying, what is it that you want from me? Yeah. Like, do you want me to say nothing? Very hard.
It's a difficult one, because sometimes you have to weigh your compliments as well. Because if I get overly complimented, and I'm like, do you really mean it?
Yes,
you know what I mean? So
I would argue then in that situation, is it not maybe your own personal issues where, because you wouldn't be as kind to yourself, you think it's weird that someone's being overly kind? It's literally all of our own definitions and barometers and boundaries of what is kindness, what is complimenting. So if I'm every day saying, you're really good at what you do, is it possible that you really are good at what you do? Yes, for your standards, it's not the standards that you require, but for someone else, because they're using different markers, they appreciate what you do, and they always find the positive in it.
100%.
I have a message here that is about the importance of having a variety of sexual partners in response to this question, but I'm struggling to make the link. So, Robert, if you can help me with that, please do. Sharon says, I'm a nice person by nature, always been like that. Recently, I noticed my colleague is so jealous that at every turn, she wants to throw me under the bus. So sad, because we were friends. It's 12 minutes now to 4.
Drive Home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, it is time for us to look at this. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman, in conversation with Pascal Albrecht, Executive for Commercial Issuing Product at Absa Business Banking. So, in business, credit allows SMEs to better manage their everyday expenses, especially when they're on the move and grinding hard. And now, as the festive season approaches, it's time to take it up a gear with the Absa Business Resolve credit card. And to find out more, as I said, we're going to chat to Pascal Albrecht, Executive for Commercial Issuing Product at Absa Business Banking. Brought to you by Absa on 702. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. Pascal Albrecht, good afternoon and welcome to 702 Drive.
Hey, John, thanks for having me, and hello to all your listeners.
So, businesses are looking to make money around this time because people are spending more, but they in turn, with Black Friday coming up and the festive season, you don't want to be out of stock, but you don't want to be out of cash. How are you as Absa trying to help small businesses deal with what can be a really tricky cash flow problem? You don't want to miss the wave. You certainly want to surf, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not going to drown either.
Yeah, so John, I think especially this time of year, we've seen, small business owners in particular under a lot of pressure. I think like you've made mention, everybody's trying to make sure that they've got enough stock to meet client demand, but also balancing that to ensure that they don't have too much stock. And then, really trying to make sure that they maintain profit margin, not heavily discounting their products too much, but then also making sure that they can manage their cash flow. So we recognize this at Absa, and I think this is exactly why we've developed this Business Revolve credit card product. And I think the key standout from a benefits and features perspective is that this credit card offers up to 55 days interest-free for a business card owner. So what that means is that a lot of these businesses will be able to buy stock now and only really have to pay for that stock in 55 days' time, freeing up that working capital and allowing them to retain that cash in their transactional accounts to either invest or to use it for other more important exercises, in terms of marketing, for example, running up to the festive season, those sorts of things. And I think what also is really great with this facility is that it's off the back of a credit facility. And so what that means is that they can also utilize ABSA's line of credit as opposed to their own funds. They can settle their suppliers earlier, so they can also negotiate some early settlement discounts. And I think at a time when stock is constrained in the ecosystem, I think a lot of suppliers might give preference of stock allocation to buyers who will pay earlier versus others who will pay on a 30-day term, for example.
In devising the card, 55 days is generous. It's not endless, and it certainly does become due at a certain point. But as you were working this out, Pascal, how did you figure out where you needed to also have some tough love in the mix? Because I doubt you're in a position to really know for certain every single one of your small business clients and how they're likely to do or how well they've done in the past. You want to give them some rope, but not too much, I would have thought. How did you find the sweet spot?
Yeah, so I think, John, we assess every client in an individual, business capacity. And I think that's really important for us. So we're never going to overextend credit facilities to clients whose financial statements, don't correspond with their ability to repay. So I think that's quite an important piece just to make note of. And I think we've created options also for clients. So we allow clients to settle that full card balance at the end of the period, whereas other card products, they can repay a certain portion of that credit. And we take that into consideration when assessing that business and their capability to pay back the credit facility. So it depends on the product, and it 100% depends on the financial position of that business. But we're doing a lot as ABSA right now to try and drive financial inclusion. So especially on this business revolve credit card, we've dropped the minimum limit to 500 Rand, and we're allowing small micro entrepreneurs to actually pre-fund that card with whatever cash flow that they might have to also build up a bit of a financial profile with us, so that in 6 months' time we can reassess how they're using the card, what are they spending it on, etc., to then try and increase the credit facility we're wishing to grant them. So I think there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of options that we give into our clients, but 100% it's based on the health of that business and what they're good to repay.
I would think you are I don't just mean you as an individual, but you as the team are in a very good position. You've got a nice bird's eye view on small business and the challenges they face. What are you guys learning of kind of, perhaps more general application and interest without it necessarily resulting in either a product retooling or a brand new product altogether? But I would have thought you're learning a lot. Share some of it, if you will.
Yeah, look, I think what we are learning is all businesses face similar challenges. And I think that's been really interesting for us this year. We've embarked on a new CVP build that spans from micro entrepreneurs all the way up to large corporates and across various different sectors. We're talking agriculture, manufacturing, wholesale, retail, franchise, fuel. We speaking to clients across all those sectors, and from really small businesses to super large corporates. And I think what's been really interesting for us as a team is that they're all facing similar challenges, but in different ways, right? But cash flow and managing their supply chain is a significant pain point for all businesses in South Africa at the moment, and really making sure that they're getting the best bang for their buck. So we're giving different businesses different options. We see in some businesses who cash flow is a massive problem, and so they're really leveraging that 55 days facility to their benefit. But then we see other businesses who cash flow isn't really a problem, but visibility in where they're spending, who they're spending with, the frequency of that spend is quite critical. So that's where they're using the card program to give them that level of data and insight. And so then they're just basically using the facility, and then they're reinvesting their funds from their transactional accounts into a savings and investments portfolio, for example, and earning some nice interest on that. But I think what's really interesting for us to see is that the card can really solve for various different challenges across various businesses and through various different sectors.
Thank you very much, Pascal Albrecht, joining us from ABSA, talking about the ABSA Business Revolve credit card and how it's allowing SMEs, particularly over this period where there are opportunities but also cash flow constraints, to actually get a line of credit, to make the most of festive season spending and come out the other side without either a pile of regrets or a pile of debt. 5 minutes now to 4.
Day 20, awaiting proof of payment. Day 30, still waiting. Day 40, funds finally cleared. In business, credit with 55 interest-free days keeps you moving. We get it. Get an ABSA business credit card. Use over 50% of your credit and initiation fees will be on us. Offer ends 31 December 2025. Apply at absa.co.za/business. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. ABSA, your story matters.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
When I talk about gender-based violence in South Africa.
Yo, Africa, this is so bad. What we are talking about on the media today is what has been reported. Remember, Africa, there was a policewoman, Rasuke, who went missing for years. And where was she found? She was found in a trench of a yard somewhere in Pretoria.
We have to have the death sentence. We have to have rapists castrated. I don't care whether it doesn't work, the death sentence, but do we need those people walking around the streets?
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Progress builds. It moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
Take the ultimate spin with 10Bet and me, Andy Lengube, to win a luxury BMW X3. Join 10bet.co.za. Play selected games. Every 10 rands you play earns you points. Hit the top of the leaderboard and the prize could be yours. T's and C's apply. 10Bet is a licensed betting operator and supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 shall be permitted to bet. Betting can be addictive. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. License number 921096661.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive coming up for 4 o'clock, and Bali Dlamini just putting the finishing touches to her bulletin of the very, very latest news. Coming up later in the show, we're going to speak to the coach of the Proteas, Shukri Conrad. Fabulous, extraordinary performance, I think, for them to win against India in India at Eden Gardens in Calcutta, a place of great significance for South African cricket. That was the venue of the where the very first South African team to play in India played. I happened to be there on a quite extraordinary and memorable tour. Clive Rice, the captain at the time, a game in which we lost, but which Alan Donald announced himself as the player he would prove to be on the world stage, taking a good number of wickets. I can't remember. The Indians had a very small slip of a young man called Sachin Tendulkar, who played a remarkable innings. So a special place and a special result. Shukri Conrad will take us behind the scenes of a quite remarkable Proteas performance. That's coming up at about 10 minutes past 4. Oren Singh is at the Madlanga Commission. They're still busy at the moment. Oren will update us on everything that's happened there after 5 o'clock. And of course, in the last part of the show, we're going to play you some music. In particular, we're hoping we're going to play you your music, because we'll ask you a question and you can pick a song around that question and the theme we've chosen for today. So, lots to look forward to. We're delighted to have you with us. It's 4 o'clock.
This is EWN.
The ANC warns potential councillors against bribing their way into power, and tweets by Duduzile Zuma Sambudla in the spotlight in court today. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The ANC says it will not tolerate any attempts by individuals to use money to buy their way into municipal councils. The party has released its guidelines for the upcoming local government elections, outlining the minimum criteria members must meet to qualify for seats in city councils. In previous years, there have been allegations that some ANC members use patronage to secure higher placements on the party's candidate lists. During a media briefing at Luthuli House today, ANC Electoral Committee Chairperson Kgalema Motlanthe emphasized that such conduct will not be tolerated.
To ensure that money plays no role in the candidate selection process, candidates and their supporters may not produce T-shirts, media, branding of any object, banners, pamphlets or posters. They may not engage in any campaign that relies on donations or spending own money.
He says disciplinary measures will be taken against anyone who bribes their way to the top.
Candidates found using money or dispensing patronage to buy votes will be disqualified from the candidate selection process and expelled from the ANC following internal disciplinary measures.
South Africa has dismissed concerns about the non-attendance of a handful of G20 leaders at the Leaders Summit taking place this weekend. South Africa will be hosting heads of state from the G20 bloc and delegates from guest countries on Saturday and Sunday. Policy discussions on pressing global issues have been overshadowed by the US's boycott of the gathering over President Donald Trump's false claims of a white genocide in South Africa. Government hosted a state of readiness briefing at the Nasrec Expo Centre in the south of Johannesburg today. Nogukanya Mtambo was there.
South Africa has shrugged off the US's tantrum, assuring global leaders that the show will go on even without a delegation from Washington. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola.
They are not attending. You can call it whatever. Someone can call it a boycott, someone will call it non-attendance, but the reality is that they are not attending, they are not here. We view it as non-attendance. They are absent. So we have focused on the job. We have done the job.
Lamola says 4 other heads of state will also give the summit a skip, but that their countries will be represented at the foreign ministers' level. This includes China, Mexico, Argentina and Russia.
We don't see this as a snub or undermining of Africa.
With sufficient consensus, the member states present would be able to agree on a declaration. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News at Nasrec.
Let's move to Pretoria now, where it has emerged before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry this afternoon that at least 120 dockets investigated by the KZN Political Killings Task Team had serious shortcomings. The revelation was made by SAPS component head for Serious and Violent Crime Investigation, Mary Motipe, who concluded her testimony before the Commission today. She says earlier this year, during an audit of the dockets at the SAPS's national headquarters, several faults that compromised some of the cases were identified. Oren Singh has more.
During a testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Major General Mary Motsepe revealed several discrepancies and shortcomings identified in some of the 121 dockets that were being investigated by the PKTT. The dockets arrived at national headquarters for auditing purposes in March this year. They were only handed back to the PKTT in August. She said in some instances it seemed that cases were being stalled.
The oldest docket is from 2016, where suspects were identified through Section 25 Sapuna, but the suspects were not arrested. We are now at 2025, but the last entry in the docket, it was 2023.
She claims in some instances the prosecutor's instructions were not followed, resulting in cases being unable to proceed to court. Oren Singh, Eyewitness News.
Let's take it to the courts now. A digital expert in the incitement case against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla has analyzed some of her previous tweets as the prosecution seeks to cement its case that she incited the July 2021 unrest. State witness advocate Sarah Jane Trent is in the dock at the Durban High Court today. She probed Zuma Sambudla's tweets and also opened a case against her back in 2021. Trent has reiterated before the court that the accused's social media account played a significant role in the lead-up to the unrest.
Thank you. On 9 July 2021, the accused published a poster promoting the shutdown of KwaZulu-Natal. In the tweet she states, "Until President Zuma is free, safe, alive, I agree with this, Amanda."
Zuma Sambudla is charged with incitement to commit terrorism as well as public violence. And Bangladesh has demanded that India extradite ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The call comes hours after she was sentenced to hang for crimes against humanity. The court sentenced Hasina, as well as the former Interior Minister, to death in absentia. Hasina fled to India after her ouster in a mass uprising in August of 2024, fraying relations between the two neighbours. Hasina's 15-year tenure saw widespread human rights abuses, including the mass detention and political killings of her opponents. Last year, Bangladesh said it would be requesting an Interpol red notice for Hasina, but there was no record on the global police body alert law enforcement list. Gold is trading at $4,057.48 an ounce. The rand is at 17.06 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 19.83 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.74 a barrel.
In Edenvale, heading towards Bedfordview, there is bumper-to-bumper traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange. 4 ways, traffic remains heavily backed up. This is on Winnie Mandela Drive between the N1 and Witkoppen. There's also slow-moving traffic in the Linwood area. This is due to an accident scene. This is just before the Linwood off-ramp.
In your sport, Themba Bavuma reflects on historic win for the Proteas in their first test against India. Nigeria coach blames voodoo after their FIFA World Cup hopes are crushed. And Hugo Bruce hails Debo Khomokwena after 50 caps milestone.
A cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 10 degrees, peaking at a high of 20. Pretoria 11 and 22, and Vereeniging 11 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the ANC says it will not tolerate any attempts by individuals to use money to buy their way into municipal councils across the country.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 8 minutes past 4, start of a new week. It's great to have you with us. Great to be back. I took a week away, went out into the wilds a little bit, in Mpumalanga, Kruger Park, the southern part, an area that is really one of my very, very happy places, looking gorgeous. As always, could do with some rain, but I think they're getting some right now. But yeah, delighted to be in my other happy place, which is right here on 7:02 Drive. So, coming up on the show, we're going to be talking to Proteas cricket coach Shukri Conrad shortly. A quite remarkable performance on top of a string of really remarkable performances. Themba Bavuma has been captain for 11 games. He's won 10 of them, or the team under his leadership has won 10. The other was a draw. We are the World Test champions. I was wondering what might happen when we go up against India in one of their real strongholds, Eden Gardens, although we have one in Calcutta before, I think 15 years ago. But it really was quite special. So an inside track on how the team is continuing to perform at this level. I'm really looking forward to that. Coming up at about 10 to 5, although the G20, the gathering of heads of state and foreign ministers, is still a couple of days away, the B20 is busy at work, and we're going to be chatting to Mateo Juaripe, who's going to be giving us an update on what's come out so far. Press conference given by Standard Bank Group CEO Sim Shabalala, who chairs the B20 Finance and Infrastructure Task Force. All happening steadily and slowly and bits and pieces, bit like a 5-day cricket match, actually. Mateo with us a little bit later. Good stuff and interesting and important stuff going on at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. I say good, of course, it's not good to hear about all these things, but I do think it's extremely good that it's getting an airing. And the consequence is that, for example, at the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, certain steps are being taken to suspend some people and reinstate some others. So maybe the commission already having an impact on the ground. But Oren Singh is our man, coming in at about 10 minutes past 5 to update us on everything that's been going on. Your thoughts, please, on whether you are, even if it's slightly irritating that it didn't happen sooner, are you enjoying the spritzing up of Johannesburg for all the foreign visitors, or does it actually rub salt into the wounds that some people feel they incur every single day as they drive through or try to make sense of a city that is way, way, way below the way it should be? Give us your thoughts on that, please. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 11 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, let's find out what's happening out on the roads. If you're in the Linwood area of Pretoria, you may have a wait. Here's Karabo Charlie with the insights and the updates. Good afternoon.
Yes, John, if there's an accident scene there in the Linwood area, N1 southbound near Linwood Road, this is causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus interchange. In Joburg, Fourways area, traffic remains heavily backed up on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie. Calvin Alex, we have those roadworks still causing huge delays on the N3 southbound between the Butlu interchange and London Road. That's if you are leaving Midrand heading towards Germiston, so allow for extra travelling time. Edenvale also travelling towards Bedford View, slow moving traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange, and in Gilview there's slow moving traffic. N12 eastbound, this is approaching Kliprefir Drive due to an earlier accident. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Summer is about rewarding yourself with oceanic views, sizzling braais, and so much more. Earn your share of 120 million rand in real cashback, depending on your rewards tier, when you pay with your Absa Visa card. Plus, enter the Absa Swiper competition and stand a chance to win one of 10 cars. This summer could be the best you've had in years. Your story matters. Absa, T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider.
Enjoy the thrill of the Soccer Punches Challenge Weekend Edition, an all-new platform from Hollywood Bets. You stand a chance to win a share of the 5 million rand jackpot when you bet 5 rand or more on selected EPL matches over the weekend and correctly predict 10 out of 10 winning margins. Or chase the share of the 50,000 rand leaderboard prize. Entry is free. Let this soccer season bring sizzling success. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is licensed by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
At Premier Hotels and Resorts, business travelers staying alone enjoy a complimentary drink every night of their stay. So, whatever your tipple, it's on the house at any of our 24 hotels and resorts nationwide. Book today at premierhotels.co.za.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe are gathered for the B20 Summit in Sandton till the 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Every day, the Clement Manatela Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the news, views, and insights live from the B20 Summit. So tune in to 702 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. So a couple of you are commenting on the way in which the the G20 is taking shape, and the fact that, for example, the US President Donald Trump is not coming here. We knew this some time ago. I mean, it really has been going for a while, but Simon has got an interpretation of that that I want to share with you. Let me just find you Simon's message. Simon, there we go. I think US President Donald Trump was advised not to attend because his presence would have caused unnecessary civil protests in reaction to his unfounded genocide claims about our country. Our government may not publicly say it, but they must be celebrating his non-attendance to the G20. Have to say, Simon, I disagree. First of all, I'm not sure that anyone would have managed to get a massive protest out onto the streets against US President Donald Trump. I think that not because they necessarily agree with things he's been saying. I just don't get a sense that this would bring thousands and thousands out onto the streets. I think people are very, very preoccupied. And the threat, for example, of municipal workers taking to the streets in Joburg because they hadn't been paid what they believed they ought to be, that I would find way more plausible because their people are acting in regard to their own self-interest. So I don't think that's the reason he's not coming. I think there's a whole other thing going on, which is about global politics and also about American politics as well. South Africa is celebrating his non-attendance at the G20. I don't think so, because whatever we might say in response to what the US president is saying, it definitely diminishes the event, as it does with the presidents of Russia, Argentina, and China and Mexico not being in attendance either. I mean, you want as many of the heads of state to be there as possible, and certainly the world's two biggest economies not being represented by their heads of state isn't great. So, yeah, Simon's view, I don't agree with it, but that's what Simon says. Tell us what you think. 072 7021 702, 17 past 4.
Drive Home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, I have to say I had a great time watching the cricket on Sunday. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing because even though I've seen South Africa before skittle out a powerful team for a very low total, I'm thinking of Sydney in the early 1990s when Australia, I think, needed about 120. And we got them out also on a pitch that was doing a lot. But somehow you don't often beat India in their backyard. But South Africa have done just that. And it is a reflection not just on an excellent one-off performance, but on a steady and at times very steep upward trajectory that the Proteas have been on, with Shukri Conrad as coach and Temba Bavuma as captain. There's a lot to talk about, much to admire, and we welcome to the show the Proteas coach. Shukri, welcome, and congratulations, and thanks for giving us your time this afternoon.
Yeah, hello, John. Thanks for reaching out, and great to be able to chat with you.
So, talk about Temba, the captain. I mean, the innings he played on a pitch where nobody was getting runs, his 53, I think it was, not out, the highest score in the game. I might have sold him short by 2 runs. Was it 53? 55, I thought so. 55, a quite remarkable innings. But this is a team that obviously has huge self-belief. Where's it coming from?
I think from someone like Temba. Obviously, that innings was the difference between the two sides on that wicket in this Test match. His partnership with Corbin Bosch yesterday morning, that was to be the telling difference in the Test match. And he's a steely character. He's not a man of many words, but I often refer to him as someone who leads from the back in the change room, but definitely from the front out in the field. So he gives you that confidence. He's got a quiet demeanor, but a steely one, and the team feeds off that. You know, we've also got other leaders in the side, guys like Kagiso and Aiden Markram, who's immense for this team, Keshav Maharaj, and in big games you need your senior guys to stand up, and that has been the case in all of these big games. You know, Temba in this match, Aiden and Temba and KG in the final not so long ago at Lord's. And then the younger brigade feed off that. So Yeah, all you ever want is a team that's prepared to fight and scrap for every run. And no one does it better than this group. There's a self-belief. There's a belief that they can achieve pretty much anything. But they know that they're not a bunch of superstars. And what we lack in ability, we're certainly going to make up in fight and playing as a unit.
I mean, obviously, you as a source of belief and faith in the team's ability is also crucial. But watching the game, I mean, were there times when you said, man, I'm not sure we can do this? Or is that just not in your thought patterns at the moment at all?
Yeah, I think you, on the back of the mind, you try and be realistic, and you know that you're going to have to do something super special to achieve this victory, you know. But at no stage do you ever doubt the group. You don't want any energies that they can get from you as a coach that could potentially get them thinking that way, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a saying, we just find a way, you know. We obviously do all of our background work. We train as hard as anybody does, I'm sure. We put in all the necessary work behind the scenes from an analysis point of view, all of that. And then we go out and we say, right, what's needed in these conditions, and how best are we going to try and fashion a result here? And at the end of the day, it's a mindset. Everybody's got a reasonable skill set, but then at the end of the day, it is a mindset that needs to be one of almost us against the world type of thing. You know, we're always going in as underdogs. Not that we need to prove to the world how good we are, but yeah, we certainly believe we can mix it with the best, and we're starting to show that more regularly now.
So, Shukri, I once asked KG Rabada this question. I said, which gives you more satisfaction, a brilliant wicket that silences the MCG, or a brilliant wicket that sends Wanderers into raptures? And he said the latter. There's nothing like playing at home. But were you guys able to feed off the silences in a sense? Because if the Indian players were feeling either the disbelief and lack of belief in the crowd, presumably that's almost as good as home advantage. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, exactly that. You try and put a positive spin on it, and you almost sense there was an air of desperation from the crowd, because I mean every single run of theirs was greeted with a rapture of applause that was deafening, you know, in the stadium, and we kept saying to the guys, you know, they're getting desperate. All of their players are going to feel the pressures of this. Let's keep chipping away.
Yes.
You know, all the basic cliches that coaches that roll off very comfortably off our tongues. But it was exactly that. Every time we silenced them, the crowd, we knew we were onto something. And it wasn't an easy wicket. We always knew that chasing anything in excess of 100, and also knowing that Shubman Gill wasn't going to bat, that gives you a little bit of a bit more self-belief. You know, we start well with the ball. Marco takes 2 big wickets before lunch, and we know that we just need to keep chipping away, stay in the contest, stay in the fight, and something's going to happen. And
that's what did. Yeah. So
it happened yesterday.
So just the last one. I mean, if someone were to say India at home in Calcutta and the man of the match was a spinner, the chances are you wouldn't pick out a South African. Certainly, you wouldn't have said that many years ago. But Simon Harmer has done some remarkable things. I mean, is this just steady, slow progress built on incredibly hard work and a willingness to learn? I mean, what do you make of it? Because he's really making people sit up and talk about who he is and what he might still do.
Yeah, look, Simon, when he reached out to me a few months ago saying that he was desperate to still play for South Africa, I couldn't tell him how desperate I was to have him on board, knowing that we were touring the subcontinent, you know. So yeah, Simon's got 1,000 first-class wickets, and I don't think anybody's got more wickets as a spinner at first-class level. So he knows his trade now. he's probably at the peak of his powers. Yes, he's a bit more experienced and he's on in years, but he is a master craftsman, and he'd be the first one to admit he bowling in tandem with someone like Keshav, where you're able to exert pressure from both ends. That plays into our hands as well, So yeah, he's arrived at the right time for us, and yeah, he's a master craftsman. He knows his trade, and I think it's also a mindset change from us as a South African, where we've almost abandoned the fast bowler mentality, and we've now almost encouraged spinners. We know that we can come to the subcontinent. We've got 2 or 3 really good spinners, and we can mix it with them on that front as well. So our bowling attacks one where we've got all the boxes ticked and all bases covered, and we know we can rely on them to keep us in games.
Well, you're all going to have to do it again on Saturday in Guwahati, but so far so good. Shukri Conrad, many, many thanks for your time on 702 Drive, and please pass on our best to the players. It was fabulous to watch. Maybe you got some thoughts on the way the South African cricket team is flourishing under Coach Conrad and Captain Themba Bavuma. 26 minutes past 4.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
How does the massage work? And I'm assuming you are doing it from inside. You're not actually holding the womb with your physical hands, or is that what you're doing?
So you're doing it from the abdomen. You're actually doing it from the outside. So like the people who are trained to do it, who are experienced at doing it, they know how to feel for the top of the uterus.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's gently but firmly. You don't want to be too rough that you're making the mother uncomfortable, but there is a level of discomfort that goes with doing it.
Dr. Dalsi Rakomakwe, who is a medical doctor and the CEO of Quad Care.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota.
Let's walk the talk.
The Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra wraps up its spring symphony season under the baton of popular conductor Daniel Boyko, joined by pianist Fyodor Orlov and soprano soloist Sipokazi Mapumulo. The program includes masterworks by Bernstein and Rachmaninoff. Join them at the Linda Auditorium on Thursday, 20 November at 7:30 p.m. Book your tickets at Quicket to avoid disappointment.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for real estate agencies, law firms, computer services, and more. Yakolin?
We saved a lot of money when we switched over from another insurance company to Business Outsurance. We've had some claims and they were friendly and efficient and paid out when they promised.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tony?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
EWN Business.
So, it's start of a new week on the markets. Stephen Curtis is always keeping an eye on things. How's it gone so far? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Well, obviously, in a way, a good start to a week because we got the upgrade from S&P Global late on Friday night, but not such a great start for the JSE, mainly because gold and platinum are lower today. The JSE All Shares down 0.06% at 111,901 points. Financials up 1.5%. Industrials down 0.43%. Resources down 1.4% on the day. Quite a lot of corporate news in South Africa today. So Naspers saying their core headline earnings per share for the 6 months to the end of September are expected to be up by over 20%. It's making more money from 10 cents, and obviously processes driving this as well. Astral reporting their operating profits up by 10.9%, produced more chicken. That brings its overall production costs down. They are slightly concerned about bird flu. We'll actually talk to the Astral CEO this evening on the Money Show tonight, John. Quite a lot to look at there. We Buy Cars car slightly down on the day as well, mainly after they reported their core headline earnings are up by 3.4% to the end of September, citing tougher competition from cheaper new Chinese cars. Remember that big drop? They went down 14% at one point, down a little bit earlier today. We'll speak to their CEO on the Money Show as well. And MTN saying their group service revenue up by 25% in the 9 months to the end of September. But I think it's WhatsApp calls hitting MTN. Voice revenue here down by 3%. It's losing customers in the prepaid segment. Vodacom said exactly the same thing last week. So something shifting there. Sasol up 3.75%. Outsurance up 3%. Old Mutual up 2.6%. As many other financial shares doing quite nicely. I think that ratings upgrade helping a little bit. Capitec's up 2.26%. And the property company Attack up 2.36% as well on the day. Goldfields are down 2.2%, Harmony down 2%, AB InBev down 1.9% on the day. Pretty much a muted opening expected in the US. They're just opening now. Quite a few results coming through. People also looking at the fact that Alphabet shares are up. They own Google. Berkshire Hathaway disclosed that they had increased their stake. So they've sold some of their shares in Apple again, and then they bought more in Google, clearly making a bet on the future there. The gold price, $4,068.14 an ounce. Platinum, $1,538.20. Brent crude, $64.40. The rand to the dollar, 17.10 to the euro, 19.83 to the British pound, 22.53. Stephen Grootes, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Back with us in about 55 minutes' time with the market close and updates on what's happening in the US, and of course a look ahead to the Money Show, which comes your way between 6 and 8. 7:02 drive at 28 minutes to 5. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news. Here's Mbali Dlamini.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Amnesty International South Africa says it will continue to push for justice for 3-year-old Unecebo Mboteni, who died after falling into a pit toilet in the Eastern Cape last year. The incident took place at the boys' preschool in Mdantsane. The NGO says it's outrageous that no one has taken responsibility and accountability for the incident. Since April 2022, the early childhood development centers in the country were migrated from the Social Development Department to the Basic Education Department. Ntutu Zelonene reports.
Earlier this year, Education Minister Siviwe Gwagube announced that the department had successfully eradicated 96% of pit toilets identified under the 2018 SAFE initiative. According to Amnesty International South Africa, the little boy's parents are not even sure if the pit toilet he was found in has been removed. The organization's program and impact manager, Alicia Yoster, says this is very concerning.
Unecebo has been the third child to be found in a pit toilet in the Eastern Cape since 2018. It's incredibly concerning that the department still hasn't missed its own deadline to remove pit toilets when we know how severe the consequences are of children as young as 3 using these toilets.
EWN has reached out to the Basic Education Department for comment, and we await their response. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
Johannesburg is gearing up for the G20 Leaders Summit, which is set to get underway this coming weekend. International delegates and other visitors are expected to gather at the Nasrec Expo Center for the 2-day event. Authorities have successfully completed a comprehensive G20 safety drill, testing traffic management, emergency protocols and coordination between Metro Police, the SAPS and the Road Traffic Management Corporation. JMPD spokesperson Kolani Fihla.
We have been going through intensive planning since it was announced that South Africa will be given the presidency for the G20. So a lot of coordinated efforts have been put in by various law enforcement agencies.
Fihla says various major routes will be affected.
It's the N1, the N12, the N3, the M1, the R21 and R24, and within then the suburban areas, then it will affect areas of Sandton, Melrose Arc, Fourways, parts of Roodepoort, and in Rosebank, Westcliff and Parkview.
And in Nigeria, gunmen have kidnapped 25 girls from a government boarding school in the northwestern part of the country. It's understood the criminals reportedly killed a teacher and a local guard during the invasion. This latest attack comes more than a decade after nearly 300 girls were abducted from a school in Chibok, which sparked international outcry. Police say tactical units and military personnel have been deployed to the area in a bid to rescue the abducted girls. A cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Lows of between 10 and 11 degrees and highs of between 20 and 22.
Gilview heading towards the Alberton area, you can expect heavy delays. This is on the N12 eastbound between the Uncle Charlie's interchange and Klip Drive due to an earlier accident. Edenville also bumper-to-bumper traffic R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Giluli's interchange in Linwood, Pretoria. We're still dealing with that accident scene N1 South near Linwood Road, causing more than a 30-minute delay from the Proof Plus interchange.
The top story in EWN, Amnesty International South Africa says it will continue to push for justice for 3-year-old Unecebo Mboteni, who died after falling into a pit toilet in the Eastern Cape last year.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
What is the position of the ANC? Obviously, you're confident that Proteas is doing a good job as Premier.
It's not just the position of the ANC. It's a position of a broad spectrum of parties that are represented in the Gauteng provincial government of unity.
The motion of no confidence in Proteas. Are you as the ANC confident that he will survive this?
All parties have already spoken, with the exception of the DA, that they'll reject the motion. So he has already survived it.
Tuseko Makubela from the ANC in Gauteng.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring iStore. Their CEO, Chris Dodd, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. And join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702. Let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Step into a world of unforgettable experiences in Dubai. From luxury beaches to underwater adventures. From authentic traditions to futuristic museums. Make it a Dubai adventure to remember with Emirates. Fly to Dubai from one of 3 gateways in South Africa. Start your holiday the moment you board with delicious regional meals, complimentary drinks, and up to 6,500 channels of entertainment. Fly Emirates, fly better.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
EWN Sport.
702 Drive, let's go back to the sports desk. Let's carry on with our look at what the Proteas achieved out in Kolkata. Tolakele, Simon Harmer's been reflecting on what he's achieved.
Absolutely, John, and he claimed a match haul of 8 wickets to lead the Proteas to a 30-run win over India in the opening test on Sunday. After captain Themba Bavuma scored an unbeaten 55 in their second innings, India faltered in their chase of 124 as they were bowled out for just 93. For Harmer, he finished with figures of 4 for 30 in the first Indian innings.
I mean, Simon, he's been playing cricket, he's got over 1,000 wickets, first-class wickets, so he knows what he's doing. Simon's tall, so the ball obviously comes at a higher trajectory, and he has good control in terms of his pace. He's able to put revs on it. You'll see in terms of the seam. And he's quite smart, so for him, coming back into the team really has made our bowling attack even more formidable.
Hugo Bruce admits that he's preparing to have some difficult conversations with several players ahead of his AFCON 2025 squad announcement. South Africa wrapped up their preparations with a 3-1 win over Zambia. And as he gears up for the briefing in the first week of December, he's discussed what he has to contend with when considering his final 23.
What was so easy 2 years ago, it will be now very difficult to do.
because we have more than 23 players who can go to AFCON and who deserve it to go to AFCON. But yeah, the decisions will be made by me, and some of them will be maybe painful for the player, but also for me personally, because it's not so a nice thing to drop a player.
Portugal are preparing to appeal Cristiano Ronaldo's red card, which could rule him out of their opening 2 games of the FIFA World Cup next year. Ronaldo was sent off during their 2-0 defeat at the Republic of Ireland on Thursday, and with the length of his ban currently unclear, he missed Sunday's 9-1 thumping over Armenia. That victory assured them of an appearance at a 7th consecutive staging of the global showpiece event. Switching over to rugby, where the Springboks take on Ireland in their penultimate game of the Autumn Nations series on Saturday. South Africa have conquered all before them during their outgoing tour, but Keenan Moody is taking nothing for granted.
Yeah, I think a lot of confidence. 2 tight games we had to fight out, and obviously scoring tries in the last 20, scoring some good tries in the last 20 minutes will take a lot of confidence in playing a full 80. So yeah, we'll see what Ireland throws at us next week, and yeah, we'll be well prepared for whatever they bring.
And former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua will fight YouTube star Jake Paul in a professional bout in the United States next month. The former 2-time unified heavyweight champion will take on Paul in a fight that will consist of 8 3-minute rounds. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 19 minutes to 5, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you. Karabo Chale is the man. Keeping an eye on things Gilview. We've got some problems, yeah?
Yeah, we had that earlier accident on the N12 eastbound. That's if you're leaving the Soweto area, heading towards Germiston, Alberton. That accident scene in the Gilview area. N12 eastbound between Deep Kloof interchange and Klip Rafir Drive, so allow for extra traveling time through there. There's also bumper traffic in Edenvale traveling towards Bedford View on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange, while in Calvin Alex area roadwork still causing heavy delays heading towards Germiston. N3 southbound between the Butlu interchange and London Road. 4 ways expect some delays. Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie. And finally, in the Linwood area, there's an accident scene. N1 southbound near Linwood Road, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.coza. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to Cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. It's coming up now for 17 minutes to 5. We're going to be taking a closer look at one aspect of the G20, the main event, of course, or the most prominent event, should I rather say, because who determines what the main event is? That's on Saturday, and we'll be bringing you coverage throughout the day on 702. We'll give you details closer to the time, and we'll do the same thing on Sunday for the final session of this entire process. But coming up shortly, we're going to be looking at what the people involved in business and economics and finance and investment are talking about this week. We'll do it with Muteo Khwaripe shortly. But let's turn our attention to this. All of us at some point from time to time are faced with the fact of news that somebody we know has passed away. And if we don't know them particularly well, but there is a point of connection that makes that particular death significant. There were some questions that we have, and Karabo Chale, you've had a few of those questions on your mind.
Yes, so we are curious beings as humans. So when somebody passes on, it's a natural question that usually comes out of what happened, And I don't know, some people I've picked up that they don't appreciate being asked what happened to their family member. Maybe they find it inappropriate or rude.
Yes.
With me, I'm very open to sharing the news of what happened to the deceased. So I was just asking, what's your take, John? Like, what's your take when somebody asks what happened to your beloved family member or whoever? Do you take an offense, or do you think it's rude? Do you want your space, or are you willingly sharing? Is it how do we deal with that? Is it?
Yeah, it's a really important question, and whenever I get an important question, I always give quite a long answer, because so for me there are a couple of considerations. Now I don't take offense.
Okay.
I really don't, and I do understand that people want to get a sense. Look, some people may just be curious, but I think from people who are genuinely concerned, they want to get a sense of what you, as those who survived the person who passed, actually went through. Was it sudden?
Yes.
Was it a shock?
Yes.
Because that's one kind of grief and one kind of pain. The other is a long illness, which brings with it pain and suffering for those who survive and who are in mourning. It's a different kind of pain. I don't know the answer to that, but the other thread I would just add to what I've said is that I would always be guided by the levels of privacy that the other person wanted, the person who's died. So, for some people, they just don't want anyone to talk about what they're going through, and maybe they'd like that to continue. But, yeah.
Being rude, is it rude?
I don't think it's rude, but if some people want to argue that it is, I'm not ruling out that they would have good arguments. Tola Kele, what are your thoughts?
Normally I gauge whether or not I can ask that question based, because they'll say, okay, so-and-so has passed away, then I'll give my condolences. And I'm like, were you guys close?
Yeah.
Because that kind of gives you an idea of whether or not they're willing to share, or whether they're going to say, I mean, it was like a long distance aunt. Then I'm like, they probably don't even know what happened. They just got a call that said they passed away, and then they're just moving on from the situation. But I think a lot of people, it's just a reminder of like life can just go like that. And I think that's why people ask. It's not like they're just trying to be in your family's business. It's just a reminder that at any moment you can see one person now, and then tomorrow you just get the news that they're gone.
I think what also happens, because you've set it out really clearly, is that when it is someone you know and you know they haven't been ill, it's almost an automatic response to say, oh my goodness, what happened? What happened? Because you are sad and shocked in the genuine sense. But your first instinct is, but I saw him the other day, he seemed fine, what happened?
Some people find that inappropriate.
Yeah. No, I get that. So it's a great conversation, and it's an important one. I think the more we talk about these things, the healthier our relationships are likely to be as a result. But do give us a call if you've got a view on that or an experience you'd like to share on 072 702 1702. A couple of you are already weighing in, and that's great. Adrian, quick off the mark, says, I think there shouldn't be a mystery around why someone has passed away. The only exception would be if it compromises someone left behind. Ranki says, others do post on social media that their loved ones have passed, but when asked what happened, they are offended. Why post then? I suppose, Ranki, they do want to let people know, in terms of people who might have known the person who's died, but they also want to let you know what's happening to them, so you can adjust your expectations or behaviors towards them accordingly. I'm not sure the fact of posting about the fact of a death then obliges you to share more details. I wouldn't go with that, but let's hear from other people. 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702, 12 minutes to 5.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, we're just one day away now from one of the biggest moments on the global business calendar. The B20 Summit, the official business voice of the G20, kicking off in Sandton from tomorrow, running all the way through to Thursday, 20 November. As lead sponsor, Standard Bank plays a major role in this year's agenda, with CEO Sim Shabalala chairing the Finance and Infrastructure Task Force, and Lungisa Fuzile, Standard Bank's Africa Regions and Offshore Chief Executive, serving as Deputy Chair. So to set the scene ahead of the summit and tomorrow's media briefing, our EWN colleague Moteo Juaripe is on the ground, and he's got a very special guest. Moteo, very good afternoon to you. You're out at the center where everything's about to happen, and as I mentioned, you've got someone you're going to be chatting to. Over to you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. You and I have had a couple of these conversations throughout the year as we work our way to the main G20 event happening this weekend. Well, this time around, the B20 Finance and Infrastructure Task Force is a working group, of course, of the B20, the official business community dialogue of the G20. The task force is chaired by Sim Chabalala, the Standard Bank Group CEO, and the chair will this evening hold a press conference ahead of the B20 Summit kicking off tomorrow as a curtain raiser to the main event happening this weekend. Now, this business wing of the G20 uses the B20 platform to focus on, I think, global challenges in infrastructure financing, particularly in emerging markets, by providing policy recommendations to the G20. But I've got somebody who knows far more than me about that particular topic, is Luthando Vuba, Executive Head of International Trade at Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Luthando, we've been on this long journey with the presidency for South Africa when it comes to the G20. When it comes to the B20 Summit, just give us an overview of what has been the work so far with your international partners working towards the recommendations that will be tabled during the weekend.
Thank you, Matteo, and thank you to your listeners for the time. It has been a journey kicked off on the 18th of February this year, where the B20 Summit, the B20 was launched, constituting of 8 task forces, and it's been a process of ensuring that there is very intentional engagement, but clarity in what the policy recommendations must be. You would appreciate that balancing the interest of both developed and emerging markets and developing economies that constitutes these 20 countries can be quite complex, especially when needing to agree on principle, but also policy recommendations. So it's been a process of deliberately engaging, ensuring you've got some of the best leaders from these different countries that are represented in these task forces. And I think it's been a very fruitful journey because one could agree that the world is changing quite rapidly, but at the same time, we needed both agile but very responsive policy recommendations. And so that's been the process, to be very intentional about those two things.
There's been a lot of talk around, the business, the world in terms of trade and the changes that are happening in terms of tariffs. As a business community for the B20, ahead of the G20, how difficult was it to come up with the recommendations to deal with the world that we live in today?
Certainly, that posed for us quite a challenge. I think we had a few sessions where the focus was just on the geopolitics. But at the root of it all, it was very comforting to get a sense around the room that from a business perspective, there was an agreement that there's still interest in the multilateral trading system. And how do we then focus and push and advance that with the economies that are interested and believe in the multilateral trading system, still being the way to elevate and grow the developing and emerging economies, but at the same time, ensure that there is sound engagement on how we deal tariffs. Tariffs is one play when it comes to international trade, but it is one that can be a significant barrier. And the recommendations had to ensure that, what the differences are, they can be resolved in a way that still advances the multilateral trading system.
What can South Africans expect then from the recommendations to be tabled to the G20? Because somebody sitting in their house, in the car, in traffic is wondering what's the big deal about. What have you discussed and what do you plan to take forward to the G20 leaders?
Excellent question. I think from the Finance and Infrastructure Task Force, we had to look at the problem that I think is a global problem, which is the infrastructure required and how much is being spent on it, not keeping up with what is required annually. Globally, $3 trillion is spent on infrastructure, and there's a widening gap in that because an additional $500 billion is required. In Africa alone, we are spending around 180, and we require 180 annually. We're around spending about half of that. So the key thing has been to look at structurally what is the inhibitor. So the one is the availability of investable projects, and on the other end is then the money getting to those projects. So our recommendations very simply deal with that. How do we then support projects to be viable and investable? Because in Africa, we face a drop of it of around 90% of projects, purely because of the project preparation, the soundness of the project. And so that's a key thing that will ensure there are actually projects that can be funded. And we're not at a lack of demand for infrastructure on the continent. And on the other end, how do we then, as financial services players and other players in the financial ecosystem and financiers, mobilize that credit and that capital towards those projects? And the key thing is how do we look at innovative approaches to mobilize more capital, such as looking at philanthropic capital, blended finance structures, to start to help us to de-risk some of these projects so that more private capital can participate in the infrastructure financing.
B20 kicks off tomorrow. Just quickly, can we expect some deals to come out of it?
I certainly would hope so. But we have a lot of people in town that are very excited about the prospects of not just South Africa, but the opportunities on the continent. So I certainly hope we have some good positive outcomes.
Well, John, we're only a few minutes away from the press conference ahead of the B20 summit starting tomorrow. That was Lutando Vuba, the executive head of international trade at Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. I'll give you all the details of what comes out of this particular presser later this evening.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much, Muteo Khwaripe, and we're looking forward to details from that press conference. I must say what I particularly enjoyed from Lutando Vuba was when Muteo said, any deals we can expect to be done, and the laugh was a very positive one. So we'll look out for that. I'm hoping, by the way, as well, that what Standard Bank and other South African players in the infrastructure financing space are learning from their engagement with foreign counterparts, looking at what's happening in other countries on our continent. I hope they're going to come up with some ideas about how we speed up our own infrastructure spend, not just make it happen quicker, but make sure it hits the target. Because how many times have we heard about infrastructure driving the economy, turn South Africa into a building site? Pretty much every year there's a speech or two promising that. It does not appear to be happening. Someone said when you drive through Joburg, look for the cranes. There are not many in evidence, and that's never, ever a good sign. So we will await the news of that press conference with great interest. I'm sure filling in the details with Stephen Curtis on The Money Show between 6 and 8. It's 4 minutes now to 5.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The ANC has downplayed claims of a plot to oust its president, Cyril Ramaphosa, as a meeting of the National Executive Committee heats up. This follows reports by the Sunday World that the party's highest decision-making body outside of conference is aware of covert and divisive attempts to remove Ramaphosa before the end of his term in 2027.
Our term ends in December 2027, and our term will end with President Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Calling all wedding planners and venues, restaurants, conference centers, and hotels. Do you need tables and chairs? Home in One has it all. Do you need cutlery, crockery, table linen, and restaurant equipment? Home in One has it all. Do you need tents, gazebos, or umbrellas? Home in One has it all. Affordable prices, the latest trends, with 2 branches in Pretoria and Johannesburg. Shop online at homein1.co.za because we're your #1 choice. Home in One has it all.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John. I just want to throw in another element to the discussion
of people passing away, you'll also get those people who were actually not even close to the person who passed away, posting about them on social media, finding a picture and writing a short message, RIP, we'll miss you. I mean, some people don't even wait for their relatives to be informed. People just, start posting, and I don't think it's their business. We should respect one another. We should respect the family, the friends. Allow people, to post first before you can do it on your side.
Yeah, very, very important point raised there. I know of somebody who found out about the passing actually of their daughter by going to their Facebook page. So it was, admittedly, they were across time zones, but the time zone gap wasn't huge. I think it was about 4 hours. And the person had been very ill, but it was extremely traumatic for them not to hear directly. So point well made. We'll talk about that some more, but not before we've heard the very latest eyewitness news from Mbali Dlamini. It is 5 o'clock.
This is EWN.
The Madlanga Commission hears details of how crucial dockets were demanded, and Joburg puts final touches in place with guests set to arrive for G20. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. A former commander of KZN's Political Killings Task Team has told the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry that he was given 24 hours to gather 118 dockets to be handed to the SAPS's headquarters. In March this year, Ndate Khumalo says he received a rushed instruction from Crime Intelligence boss Dumsani Khumalo to hand over the dockets to his office the next day. He has told the Inquiry this afternoon that his team scrambled to gather the dockets under the unreasonable deadline. Oren Singh reports.
Former PKTT commander Ntate Khumalo says the handover of 118 dockets to SAPS's headquarters in Pretoria was not properly done, as they were only given 24 hours to prep the dockets. He claims this was an unreasonable request, as his team had very little time to compile the dockets for a proper handover.
If we were given ample time, there would have been a smooth handing over, because handing over it's a very crucial and important process.
Earlier, SAPS's component head for serious and violent crime investigation, Mary Motsepe, said an audit and inspection of the dockets revealed serious shortcomings.
23 suspects were identified by witnesses, but these suspects were not arrested.
Khumalo says some of the discrepancies identified in the dockets were later corrected by the PKTT, but this was never communicated to head office. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
At the same time, the city of Ekurhuleni says a decision to reinstate Kilebogile Thipa as spokesperson for its Metro Police Department was made to restore public confidence in the unit. Thipa was demoted over a year ago for mishandling media queries about corruption allegations against EMPD Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi. This included his alleged links to suspected criminal Vusimuzi Matlala. Thipa appeared before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry last week and gave testimony about the extent of Mkhwanazi's questionable conduct. She also alleged that she was assaulted at gunpoint and threatened to remain silent about the corrupt activities that she had uncovered. Alpha Ramshwana has more.
More than a year ago, EWN saw a confidential report by police watchdog IPID, which found that EMPD Deputy Chief Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi had unlawfully entered the city into an agreement with a company linked to Vusimuzi Matlala. In the report, EMPD spokesperson Kilebogile Thipa was listed as one of the key witnesses whose testimony IPID relied on to establish the facts surrounding Mkhwanazi's alleged misconduct. But shortly before IPID released its final report, which recommended the city take disciplinary action against Mkhwanazi, Thipa was demoted. Ekurhuleni spokesperson Pagamile Mbengashe says the city has now decided to reinstate her as the EMPD spokesperson.
We want to assure residents that this is an administrative corrective measure and it does not interfere with the work of the Madlanga Commission. The city remains fully cooperative and respects the Commission's independence.
The fraudulent agreement Mkhwanazi is accused of signing with Matlala allegedly resulted in blue lights being improperly issued to Matlala's private security company. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The manner in which suspended Joburg Prosecutions boss advocate Andrew Chau used his power is said to be probed by an inquiry into his fitness to hold office. The inquiry began its work today in Pretoria after Chau was placed on suspension by President Cyril Ramaphosa. That suspension followed serious allegations, including a complaint by NPA head Shamila Batoyi. Khomotso Modise reports.
Prosecutorial decisions made by advocate Andrew Chau over a decade ago have come back to haunt him, and he must answer before the Nkabinde inquiry. Chau is accused of quashing the prosecution of politically connected individuals, including former crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli. Mdluli was linked to the 1999 murder of Opa Ramokhibe, a man who he shared a lover with, but he was only charged and convicted of his kidnapping and assault. In his opening address, evidence leader advocate David Mahlomunyane highlighted the allegation that Chau declined to prosecute Mdluli for murder, but referred the matter to an inquest.
The further allegations against Advocate Chau are that after the magistrate's findings became available, that is in November 2012, he ought to have taken a decision then to reinstate the murder and attempted murder charges.
Advocate Mahlomunyane claims in referring the matter to an inquest, Chau weakened the state's case. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News in Pretoria.
And Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says finishing touches are underway as South Africa prepares to host the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend. Heads of state from the bloc and thousands of other delegates will be meeting in Johannesburg to finalize South Africa's G20 presidency. The country has spent a year preparing for the gathering, including policy discussions on how to address pressing global challenges. Government has come under fire for a cleanup campaign in parts of Johannesburg, including Sandton and Soweto, where the summit will be hosted. Lesufi says there is a long-term plan in place for refurbishing the city as well as the province.
There are others that are accusing us that we are just putting a lipstick on a pig, that this thing is going to collapse. We are not going into long, sustainable resolution to find everlasting solutions to it. And they are not aware the resources that we've amassed and the support that we're getting from national government.
He says he hopes the inclement weather conditions do not reverse progress being made so far.
For the first time, I always appreciate the rain. For the first time, I don't want rain because it reopens the potholes, it creates problems that need to be attended. So we're crossing our fingers that by Wednesday, the weather will behave, and on the basis of that, we'll be in a position to do the final touch-ups.
Gold is trading at $4,057.46 an ounce. The rand is at 17.07 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 19.83 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.78 a barrel.
City of Tshwane, accident scene in Linwood on the N1 southbound near Linwood Road, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus interchange. Centurion, also traffic pressure N1 northbound. This is between the N14 Brakfontein interchange and the R21, and in Gilview heading towards Alberton, traffic remains heavily backed up. That's the N12 eastbound between the Diepkloof interchange and Kliprefir Drive due to an earlier accident.
In your sport, Hugo Bruges guarantees Sipombule AFCON and World Cup spot if he continues to perform at club level. Ian Robin, now a professional paddle player, and Themba Bavuma says the Proteas beat India at their own game following their first test triumph.
A cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 10 degrees, peaking at 20. Pretoria 11 and 22, and Vereeniging 11 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: a former commander of KZN's Political Killings Task Team has told the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry that he was given 24 hours to gather 118 dockets to be handed over to the SAPS's headquarters.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 drive, it's 9 minutes past 5. Great to have you with us as company for the last hour of the show. You know, I'm reflecting a little bit on Mbali Dlamini's lead item that she was talking about a moment ago. The testimony given by one of the officers in the political killings task team, Ntate Khumalo, saying that he was given 24 hours to gather up all these dockets. And what this has been, or what that has confirmed, is what's really been a theme, both in the Madlanga Commission and in Parliament's ad hoc committee. A very strong theme for me has been the extent of dysfunction and chaos that it's exposed within the police. We had it in absolute spade loads when we were hearing about what was going on at the forensics department, the ballistics delays, all of that going on. Here's somebody being told to do an important and sensitive work, get it done in 24 hours. Lines of command appear to be tangled and snagged up. This on top of the interference by criminals and politicians in what should be the ordinary workings of the police. So the question that comes to mind for me is this. If you're in the South African Police Service yourself or close to somebody who is, are you finding this painful to listen to? And is it, in your view, undermining public confidence in the police, which could be bad and even dangerous for you as you do your job? Or are you glad that this is seeing the light of day, that this is being ventilated? Because one of the leadership, and I can't remember the name of the person from the South African Police Union, was saying this is really bad for individual men and women who serve in the South African police. Others, though, may take a different view and say, actually, this is not a bad thing. It's painful, but no pain, no gain. We've got to get this out there. And in the public domain, the public probably suspects this already based on perhaps the service they've been getting. But yeah, if you're in the police force, please give me a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Still to come on the Madlanga Commission, Oren Singh joining us shortly, EWN reporter who's been keeping an eye on today's developments. And then we asked you this question about what is the right way to behave when somebody you know, however well you know them, has passed away, and you want to know, how did they die? Because in a sense, it's not just curiosity, but you want some perspective. Was it a sudden illness? Had they been ill for a long time? Because in part, I think, you're trying to get your bearings on what the people who are close to the deceased are actually going through. But some people say you shouldn't ask. It's rude, it's bad manners, it's impolite, it's insensitive. So your thoughts on that, please. Here's what a couple of you had to say. The number to use, by the way, 072 702 1702 for WhatsApp. And if you want to give us a call and chat, 011 883 0702.
Good afternoon, John. For me, I think the question of what happened, it's another way of dealing with the shock at the time of hearing the news. And somehow I'd like to believe that the person who's asking what happened, they're not even aware that they're asking the question what happened, because with them, they're also dealing with the shock. So somehow maybe it can be another way of retaining to sympathize with you, the person. Like, for instance, that is that it somehow comes up without you, the person, asking what happened. You're not even aware that you're asking what happened. But imagine you were to say to somebody, hey, so-and-so has passed on. You're like, oh, sorry, man. That would be kind of rude. But if a person says, oh, what happened? It simply says we sympathize with you and everything else and all that, then that is that. Yeah, that's just my take on this one, man. Jeff, being in the Val.
Hi, John. I think this should be a standing rule. If someone passes, no one updates their social media, their status, or anything for the next 72 hours. Allow the people to inform their family, because this is something that I also saw. I saw a mother found out about her own child dying through somebody else's status report. Wow, that was just shocking to me.
Very, very good advice there on both of those messages. 72 hours, would you agree with that as a limit that you just set for yourself before you engage with this? Because not everybody necessarily has access to the close family members of the person who's passed. So quite tricky, but some good suggestions. And I think the point made by Jeff in the first voice note is exactly right. The what happened? How did it? Were they sick? Those questions flow out of a sense of empathy, sympathy, and perhaps of genuine shock if the person wasn't known to be unwell. 14 minutes past 5. Keep those coming, please. 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. 14 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142. Do it now and you could save on your car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Problems in Pretoria, with an update on those and anything else you need to know out on the roads. Here's Karabo Chale.
Sure, John. In the city of Tshwane, at this stage, we're still dealing with that accident scene in the Linwood area, N1 southbound near Linwood Road, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus interchange. Centurion also heading into Pretoria. Traffic is a bit sluggish on the N1 northbound. This is between the N14 Brakfontein interchange and the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Driving through the Randburg Fourways area heading towards Rudeport, Pretoria, there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Bayers Nordia, while in Fourways, traffic remains heavily backed up on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Leslie. In Houghton, heading towards the Joburg CBD, bumper-to-bumper traffic, M1 South between Killarney Benz and the Crown Interchange, while in Edenville, slow-moving traffic traveling towards Bedford View. That's R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gilulis Interchange. And finally, in Gilview, traveling towards Alberton, you can expect heavy delays. This is on the N12 eastbound between the M1 Uncle Charlie's Interchange and Klipprivier Drive due to an earlier accident. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you pick the perfect playlist, but they can help ease the traffic congestion so you can get out of the city for your weekend getaway. With the Outsurance Pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be, quickly and safely. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove, licensed insurer and FSP.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Is there any criminal case that is open against this Tebogo Malaka for all these allegations of corruption and wanting to bribe a journalist? Because that video that was released after your interaction with her, I mean, everybody was just shocked and she tried to sort of justify. It just didn't make sense. Still,
there's another whole team looking at the video angle. So the alleged bribery investigation, and that is an active Hawks investigation, and then a separate Hawks investigation is ongoing into the EWP contract and the property and those kind of financial dealings.
Peter Louis Mayberg, an investigative journalist with the Daily Maverick.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Lock into roaring rugby action this season with Hollywood Bets. Bet 50 Rand or more on any Vodacom United Rugby Championship fixture, and you could win a share of 300,000 Rand in cash, betting vouchers, or prizes. This includes Smeg bar fridges, macro vouchers, a Sharks captain run, or a player's circle experience. Only the toughest team will prevail. Bet now and let the rugby rumble begin. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Dreaming of a tropical escape? World Leisure Holidays has your ticket to paradise with exclusive getaways to the Indian Ocean Islands. From the beaches of Mauritius and the Maldives to the charm of Madagascar, Seychelles, Zanzibar and more, your dream destination awaits. Take advantage of early bird specials and pay stay offers. Call 011-285-2500 and mention 702 for a mystery discount. Or follow us on social media or contact your nearest travel professional. Start planning your escape today. T's and C's apply.
You know what success looks like. Now discover why focus is the driving force behind every success story. Catch 702 in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Krutters every Thursday, discussing the science of success. Step into the mindset of top financial achievers and discover how your thinking, behavior, and focus can shape lasting financial success. That's 702 in conversation with Momentum. Thursdays on The Money Show with Stephen Krutters. Momentum, your journey to success on 702. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Right, let's get out to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, the Political Killings Task Team. Very much in the spotlight today. A central thread through the day's conversation has been those 121, 123, let's call it, large number of documents that have been moving back and forth. So what did we learn today that is either adding a layer onto things we already knew or perhaps opening up fresh areas of interest and inquiry? Oren Singh, EWN reporter, has been covering this. You've heard him throughout the day. Oren, anything that we learned that's somewhat new about the way in which the PKTT has been working and the issues surrounding it?
John, I think the main thing that came out today that was sort of the underlying theme of this 121 dockets that were taken from the KZN Political Killings Task Team and were, acting upon instruction, were transferred to national headquarters, SAP's national headquarters in Pretoria. And we kind of mulled over these 121 dockets this afternoon, hearing from two witnesses. The first was the component head at SAPS, Major General, who's in charge of serious and violent crimes in the country, Major General Mary Motsepe. And she was the one that was instructed to audit these dockets once they were transferred from KZN, from the PKTT, to National Head Office. But I think the main thing coming out from her testimony, John, was that she didn't understand why she had to audit these dockets. And she was never kind of put into the picture about everything going on in the background, that the PKTT was possibly being disbanded. She was never brought up to breast with what was going on. And I think this comes down to SAP's executive management. We heard in previous testimony, John, that despite SAPS executive management talking about the National Police Commissioner Fani Masimola, Crime Intelligence Head Dumisani Khumalo, and the likes of suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu sitting around the table as early as March 6th, discussed the future of the PKTT. A concrete decision was not taken as to what they were going to do regarding this unit. And so this kind of filtered into the other people now that have been instructed to kind of audit these dockets and so forth. So we heard from her this morning kind of saying that she wasn't sure what was going on. She was just given this instruction by suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibia to audit these dockets. And she didn't really know why she was doing this.
It's very interesting that while all this has been going on, Oren, there have been some consequence already. We saw the suspension, I think, last week of Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi, a very powerful and controversial figure at the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and then somebody brought back from suspension. You may want to comment on both of those developments, but also the broader question, if you will, as to whether through your contacts at various levels of the police, people feel that never mind waiting for the report, Madlanga and the parliamentary hearings are already actually having real consequences and outcomes. Am I getting ahead of myself in saying that?
I think it's fair play by what's been coming out before both the commission and the ad hoc committee, John, in that we're really seeing gross misconduct on parts of several entities, state entities, and one being that of EMPD, Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and the city of Ekurhuleni at that. Last week we saw from start to finish on Monday, although they're not finished, but from Monday we heard testimony about the rot within EMPD. We heard from several people about how their lives were at risk, the threats to their lives and those around them, as well as how they were basically unlawfully just pushed aside just because they were trying to do their job. And I think it's fair play in that we're seeing the wheel turn to the extent that people are starting to see some sort of justice, be it that we haven't heard the outcomes and recommendations from both the ad hoc committee as well as the commission, but we're already seeing that there are things starting to turn in favor of those that are being taken advantage of. And it's fair play. But I think I just must add, John, that it just goes to show the power that the media have and journalists have in this country, in this democracy. If it had not been for the likes of Jeff Wicks, as well as countless other journalists have been reporting on these matters as early as 2023, pertaining to Ekurhuleni and EMPD. Our own Alpha Ramashwana has been reporting on the IPID reports related to EMPD. Had it not been for that, we wouldn't see this commission come into fruition, and we wouldn't see the things that are starting to happen come into effect.
Thank you so much. Our EWN colleague Oren Singh, every day a close eye on the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and we'll hear from him, I'm sure, as we have hearings again tomorrow. 702 Drive, it's 26 minutes past 5.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
The stage is set as business leaders from the G20 countries gather in South Africa for the B20 Summit from 18th to 20th November for the first time in history on African soil. The Clement Manyathela Show will be there, live with Nedbank, to discover how inclusive growth and prosperity can be achieved through global cooperation. So, be a part of history and tune in every day to the Clement Manyathela Show, live from the B20 Summit in Sandton. Brought to you by Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit on 702. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
EWN Business.
28 minutes past 5. Stephen Curtis joins us now with the very latest from our own market and a look ahead to tonight's Money Show. Good afternoon.
John, good afternoon. Well, the JSE All share ending the day at 0.3%, 112,313 points. Clearly a bit of rush towards the end. Financials up 1.44, industrials down 0.23, and then resources down only 0.25% roughly on the day. It is the first full day of trade since the ratings upgrade by S&P Global late on Friday night. You'd expect financial shares to be looking a little better. The rand is a bit stronger, but gold and platinum prices are lower. Sasol is up 4.3%. Outsurance up nearly 3%. Life Healthcare up 3%. Some of the property companies doing nicely. Redefine, one of them, up 2.5% as well. And Capitec and PSG both up by around 2.3%. Quite a few announcements today. So Naspers and Prosecutions ending the day. Prosecutions rather down 1.3% after Naspers said its core headline earnings per share for the 6 months to the end of September are expected to be up by over 20%. The main driver is Prosecutions as a result of that, making more money from Tencent. 91, they ended the day down 1.7% on the day. The asset managers saying their closing assets under management for the 6 months to the end of September were up by 19%. Their adjusted earnings per share are up by 15%, seeing some evidence of more demand in returning in emerging markets, by the way. And then MTN saying their group service revenue was up by 25% in the 9 months to the end of September. But I think WhatsApp calls having an impact there. Their voice revenue was down by 3% in South Africa, also losing customers in the prepaid segment. And then We Buy Cars, they're down slightly today. Their core headline earnings are up by 3.3% in the year to the end of September. They're citing tough competition from the new Chinese car market, and so people are basically buying there rather than in fact buying second-hand cars. ASP Isotopes down 7% on the day. AB InBev down 2%, and then gold and platinum miners down pretty much towards the end. And Barlow World reporting their group headline earnings per share down by 21%. To the end of September, hugely affected by issues with their Russian unit, which they've had for some time. In the US, a bit of a muted open, so the Dow Jones is now down 0.2%, call it flat. The Nasdaq is up 0.02%, call that flat, and the S&P 500 is down 0.05%. So really no movement there. A lot more data to come this week on Nvidia. Also, I suspect from the US federal government, we'll see more data coming there as well. The gold price, $4,066.04 an ounce. Platinum, $1,536.70. Brent crude, $64.30. And then the rand slightly stronger, 17.10 to the euro, 19.83 to the British pound, 22.53. On the Money Show tonight, the CEO at Astral, the CEO at We Buy Cars as well tonight. Now, we will talk about micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises ahead of the B20 and the G20. We're going to be tired of the word 20 by the time we get to the end of the week, John. And we will also talk about how you make money farming not maize, not ostriches, but almonds. You know, the nuts.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's a farm that's in the Karoo, completely encircled by a national park. What a good idea. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Can't remember what Barack Obama said, whether you must have 13 or 14 almonds a day, but he gave a very specific number. Not enough for a boom, but anyway, I'll look it up. I'll let you know. 7:02 Drive. It's 29 minutes to 6. The very latest Eyewitness News. Here is Mbali Dlamini.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says South Africa is prepared and ready to welcome world leaders and host a successful G20 Leaders Summit. He says numerous leaders from G20 member countries and invited guest countries have confirmed their participation. The minister briefed the media this afternoon ahead of the summit, which is taking place at the Nasrec Expo Centre this weekend. The minister says 42 countries have confirmed their participation. These include 20 member states and 16 guest countries, as well as 6 countries representing regional economic communities in Africa, the Caribbean, as well as East Asia.
At this stage, we have got confirmations that only 4 countries will not be represented at the head of state level. They will either be represented at the foreign minister level or Sherpa level: Russia, Mexico, and Argentina.
In the Western Cape High Court, the prosecution team in the trial of alleged Underworld gang boss Nafees Modak has set out to prove he was involved in an attack on prominent criminal defense attorney William Booth. Modak and 14 others face 122 charges for various crimes related to allegedly operating a criminal enterprise. The charges include the attempted murder of Booth at his home 5 years ago. Carlo Peterson reports.
State Prosecutor Greg Volmerans used evidence extracted from co-accused Zain Killian's cell phone today to show Nafees Modak was behind an attempt on attorney William Booth's life in April 2020. Modak and Killian, along with 4 other co-accused, face charges of attempted murder related to the shooting. Volmeran showed the court screenshots from Killian's phone, which show he was pinging Booth and one of his clients, a former state witness who can only be identified as Mr. C. Modak told the court he was hired to perform a debt collection from Mr. C in March 2020. However, he denies asking Killian to ping Booth and Mr. C.
They want you, NAF, to have Valley pinged. Not even pinged. At the very least, they want you to organize that Valley be pinged. That's not true.
The trial continues. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
And in Ecuador, voters have rejected the return of U.S. military bases to the country in a referendum which was held yesterday. With 3/4 of the vote counted, about 60% had voted no to lifting a long-standing ban on foreign bases. The rejection effectively blocks the U.S. military from returning to an air base at Manta on the Pacific coast. The vote comes against the backdrop of U.S. military airstrikes against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean as well as the Pacific. A cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Lows of between 10 and 11 degrees and highs of between 20 and 22.
Bryanston, you can expect about a 30-minute delay heading towards the Rudeport area. That's the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Beyers Nodia. Calvin Roadwork still causing heavy delays. N3 southbound between the Patlu Interchange and London Road, and in Gilview heading towards Alberton. There's still bumper-to-bumper traffic. N12 eastbound between Deep Kloof Interchange and Klipperrivier Drive.
The top story in EWN. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says South Africa is prepared and ready to welcome world leaders and host a successful G20 Leaders Summit.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
How does the massage work? And I'm assuming you are doing it from inside. You're not actually holding the womb with your physical hands, or is that what you're doing?
So you're doing it from the abdomen. You're actually doing it from the outside, you know. So like the people who are trained to do it, who are experienced at doing it, they know how to feel for the top of the uterus.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying it's gently but firmly. You don't want to be too rough that you're making the mother uncomfortable, but there is a level of discomfort that goes with doing it.
Dr. Dalsi Rakomakwe, who is a medical doctor and the CEO of Quad Care.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Study your law degree at Regenesis Law School in Sandton or online and build a successful future with leading multinational corporations, or launch your own legal practice. A Regenesis Law degree is profoundly transformational, shaping intellectually sharp, fearless warriors of justice and purpose-driven lawyers. Regenesis is Africa's fastest-growing education institution, with 1,000 multinational clients across 12 countries and a faculty of 100 industry experts. Enroll now for your law degree at Regenesis Law School at law.regenesis.net.
Time to review my favorite employee, my FNB Gold business account. You give me thousands of potential customers by listing my business on NAV Marketplace and access to Guard Me, a bodyguard for cash drops, locking up. No other card does this. If you weren't a bank card, I'd give you a raise.
The FNB Gold business account. No other card works harder for your business because your safety is worth it. FNB, help changes everything. T's and C's apply. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Afternoon, Dada John and the team. Great show as always. It's a difficult one, but I think that question is seen as offensive because I think the thinking behind asking is assumed that you want to measure the amount of sympathy or support you want to offer to the family. For instance, if a person was killed because of shenanigans that they were involved in, maybe there was a shootout with the police and that person died, automatically one is deemed not to feel any sympathy for that. If the person died from any criminal activities or was involved in any criminal activities. So at most times, that could be the reason why that question is deemed to be offensive.
Good afternoon, 702, Manala in Palm Springs. Well, for me, should I pass on, I would want people to be notified as soon as possible, because I've got family members who would make a mountain out of it that they were not notified about. A person's illness, why they're only being informed 2 days later, but they're this close related to them. Two, I would want my death announcement to be announced with the cause of death. This is to stop speculation of whatsoever reason. So once it's out there, there's no need of hushing, creating unnecessary drama. Thank you.
So the question we asked earlier, and thank you, by the way, for both of those voice notes. Excellent understanding and insight in both of them. We asked the question, is it impolite if somebody passes for you to ask, well, how did they die? What happened? And that's what we've been exploring. A couple of you communicating with me on X, where you can find me under @JohnPerlman. Or using @JohnPerlman and @Radio702 for general stuff about the station, including this show. Cabello says the question of what happened is one of several changes that came with the onset of HIV/AIDS and the associated stigma. Night vigils in townships is another example. Aldrin says, I say you don't ask how the deceased died. The information must be volunteered and your curiosity is secondary to the void. Interesting points. Keep them coming. 072 702 1702. It's 20 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele Hugo Bruce preparing for a big, very big 2026. What's he saying about potential squad members?
Well, John, he says he'd love to have both Sipho Mbule and Thembazwane in his AFCON and World Cup squads as he gears up for his final months in charge of Bafana Bafana. Mbule's resurgence continued on Saturday as he gave a man-of-the-match performance in their 3-1 friendly win over Zambia. And Bruce says the player can be a mainstay in the national team if he remains focused.
He becomes very important for us. And I told him, look, it's up to you now. You get your second chance. There is AFCON, there is World Cup. It's up to you if you want to go with us. I would like to see performances. You see, every time he's on the ball, we can be dangerous. The other side of the medal is that if tomorrow there's something happening with him, we have again a problem, like we had a problem with Themba 1 year ago. So we found now someone who can replace Themba, but I still hope that Themba will play games with Sundowns and that he will be again on his level like we always all know him.
Former Chelsea, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich winger Ian Robben has made a professional transition into paddle 4 years after his retirement in 2021. In late August, Robben achieved his first ranking points in the International Paddle Federation. That's by entering the FIP Bronze Westerbroek tournament. That's where he secured his first ever victory on the tour following a 3-sets win and is now ranked in the top 1,000. Switching over to cricket, where Themba Bavuma believes that the Proteas beat India at their own game following their 30-run win in the first test. It was their first test victory on Indian soil for 15 years, while Simon Harmer's match haul of 8 for 51 were the best figures by a South African in the country.
I think the wicket that was prepared is what I understand what was asked on their side. We've come here knowing that the wickets aren't going to be spinner friendly, similar to what we got in this game. So it didn't come as a surprise. Obviously, once you're out there in the middle, in the heat of the moment, it's a different thing. And I think for a lot of our younger guys, it's an experience for them to take in.
The Springboks take on Ireland in their penultimate game of the Autumn Nations series on Saturday. Ahead of it, Keenan Moody has discussed his midfield partnership with Andre Esterhuizen.
I think we only played like 10 minutes together in the centre pairing. But obviously it's something we obviously hope to carry on forward. But we'll see where the opportunity comes again.
New York Jets cornerback Chris Boyd was shot in Manhattan on Saturday morning and is in a critical but stable condition. A spokesperson for the New York Police Department said emergency responders transported a 29-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the abdomen to Bellevue Hospital but declined to identify the victim by name. No arrests have been made while investigations remain ongoing. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
17 minutes to 6. I don't know how your first commute of the week has gone. The morning commute, of course, well behind you. Some of you, though, may be in the thick of the traffic. We'll keep you company as best as we can, including letting you know what's going on. This EWN traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Pretoria problems, now we've got Bryanston problems. Where's it happening and why?
Yeah, that's driving through Bryanston Fourways, Randburg area, heading towards Rudeport, Soweto. You can expect more than a 30-minute delay. N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Beyers Nordia. Not clear what's causing this delay. It could be the rain or just peak hour traffic. If you are on that route, let us know what's causing this delay at this hour. You can WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702. Calvin Roadwork still causing delays through Alex, heading towards Germiston N3 southbound between the Petlu Interchange and London Road. Houghton traveling towards the Joburg CBD. There's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the M1 southbound between Ethel Oaklands and the double-decker section. Also in the opposite direction, traveling through Sandton, heading towards Midrand. Also heavy delays, M1 northbound between Ethel Oaklands and the Petlu Interchange. While in Edenvale, slow-moving traffic, R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis Interchange. In Pretoria, Linwood, we still have slow-moving traffic. This is due to an earlier accident, N1 South near Linwood Road, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Proof Plus Interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a parent shuttling his kids, with a back seat full of chatter, laughter, lunchboxes, and lost shoes. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a regular yet special slice of a family's life. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, you're welcome to keep commenting on the big stories of the day or the various questions we've been asking you throughout the course of the 2 hours and 45 minutes we've spent together. But we do like to bring you some music at the end of the show. Now, I don't have supermarkets started yet with their festive season music. I haven't really noticed. It's not something I particularly pay attention to, but we're not jingle bells in quite yet, are we?
I must say, I haven't heard any Boney M at all.
Yes.
But I haven't been in the shops over the last, week or so. So
yeah,
maybe things have changed. But because all the decorations are out.
We were talking about not Christmas music, i.e. carols or I don't know what you'd call what Boney M has done over the years. Well, I mean, you could... I know what you could call it, but not on air. But that's for that's for another day. I complained bitterly about Boney M and how little I liked their music, and my reward for that on the 25th of December was the best of Boney M. I think it was a double CD. Anyway, I did get. I'm hoping there is something else still to come. But you were talking about music that reminds you of Christmas that isn't Christmas music.
Yes.
Tell us what you mean by that, and then give us your example.
Yeah, so I saw a post on Reddit, and it says this guy, he's looking for songs that remind you of Christmas, but they aren't songs about Christmas.
Yes.
Essentially. So, there could be, let's say you listen to maybe during the holiday period, there were songs growing up or in the household that played, and every time you hear it, it reminds you of that period,
yes,
right?
Okay.
So that's what we're kind of looking for. So he says here, I want to make a playlist for songs that feel Christmassy but aren't about Christmas. For me, Fly Me to the Moon, Frank Sinatra, always makes me think of going Christmas shopping.
Okay.
For some reason. So I was thinking, gosh, what song could remind me of Christmas, but it's not about Christmas? And it is The Final Countdown, which is a song by Europe, the band Europe. And
yes.
it reminds me always of the holiday period, the end of the year, and, in particular, not every New Year's, but on a couple of New Year's growing up, when we're at auntie's, uncle's, or my parents' home, this song would always play on, New Year's Eve.
Right.
And, it's a gathering of family and all that kind of stuff. So my choice, which would make me, think of Christmas, but that's not a Christmassy song, is The Final Countdown.
Okay, so The Final Countdown by Europe, and obviously you're not referring to, sort of checking your bank balance as you make your way to the end of the year. That would have a different message. But yeah, I think that sums it up really well, that it's that time of year that is about, yes, Christmas, but, more broadly, the festive season gathering. It's the end of the year. So here it is, Europe, The Final Countdown. Swedish rock group Europe with singer Joey Tempest. What a great name for a lead vocalist in a rock band. The Final Countdown came out in 1986, and I don't know if it reminds people of the end of the year or whatever, but in terms of the charts, it was a huge success everywhere, it would seem, except in the United States, in Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, and I'm only on the I's. Alphabetically, it goes on. Went to number one and stayed there. And in South Africa, it came out at the time when we still had Springbok Radio, and it went to number one there. So a song that reminds you of the festive season, of Christmas, whatever you like. Frame it any way you choose. It's not a Christmas music selection that we're looking to put together, i.e. not carols and songs about Christmas or Christmassy songs, but songs that remind you of that particular time of year. So we got one, we need some more. Even if that one was a number one, we need much more safety in numbers. So your suggestions, please, to 072 702 1702. We'll bang in as many of your requests as we can. 8 minutes to 6.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The ANC has downplayed claims of a plot to oust its president, Cyril Ramaphosa, as a meeting of the National Executive Committee heats up. This follows reports by the Sunday World that the party's highest decision-making body outside of conference is aware of covert and divisive attempts to remove Ramaphosa before the end of his term in 2027.
Our term ends in December 2027, and our term will end with President Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
What do partners of the Gates Foundation do when facing the world's toughest challenges? They keep going. From discovering a plastic drape that helps detect excessive postpartum bleeding faster, to developing better bed nets to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes, to researching an RSV vaccine that could save hundreds of thousands of children. For every problem, there are people who prove that progress is possible. The Gates Foundation, partners of human potential. Learn more at gatesfoundation.org/keep going.
For the best game viewing, you go to Mpumalanga.
For the best whale watching, you go to Hermanus. And for the best in investments, go to Nedbank. Earn up to 7.6% interest with the Nedbank Just Invest account and access your funds within 24 hours. For better returns, go with Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and the team. The songs that remind me of Christmas, especially from yesteryears, it's the song by Madonna, Holiday. Whenever it plays, it reminds me of a Christmas. And the other one is One Way. The song is Who's Fooling Who? Man, those two songs, whenever they play, it reminds me of Christmas. One reminds me of Christmas when it was raining and so forth. So, yeah, guys, those two. Etiquette, thank you.
Good afternoon, John. Shablana from Whiteville in Benoni. I think for me, the song that reminds me of that festive vibe was Brenda Fassie, Vulindlela. I think, when was it, 97 or 98 there? I don't remember exactly which year was it. But I remember by that December, everywhere you go, that song was playing. Thank you.
Lovely choice. Came out in 1997. If we're just trying to pin down a date. Marek says, good afternoon, John. For me, I can see clearly now by Johnny Nash. Does it? PSM says, Stimela by Pinda, or rather, Pinda Mzala by Stimela. What else? What else? Yeah, this is really interesting from Lolly, who says, Sting's 2009 album and concert If on a Winter's Night, live from the Durham Cathedral, was primarily inspired by the winter season, the traditional folk music of the British Isles, and a desire to connect with his roots in the northeast of England. And TRG goes for something from the 90s, I think it is, Fantasy by Black Box. Always reminds me of a family gathering, and we do our get down on Christmas Day. Songs that remind you of the Christmas season. Let's see what we got.
Afternoon, Tata John. Good afternoon, Tata John. Yes, this is Lifang Khadima from Orlando West. For me, the song that stands out, the festive gathering song which stands out for me, it's a song by Spokes H. Yeah, the title of the song is Peace My Chance. Yeah, Peace My Chance. Yeah, that's the song for me. We normally used to play that song a lot back in the days, you know. Yeah, so that's the song for me. Thanks for the awesome show. Awares.
Hi, John and the team. It's Vos in Pretoria. The song that reminds me of Christmas, it's Mawilis in Twenjani. I remember my uncles used to come with the CDs in December, especially the ones that were going to be the hit. And then, they used to play, he played that Mawilis song in Twenjani, and then he lost his CDs, and then he asked my granny to say, Gogo, ipi CD yami in Twenjani? My Gogo was like, in Twenjani. So like, granny didn't know that was the title of the CD. So yeah, we had a great Christmas. So every time when I listen to that song, it reminds me of Christmas.
What a wonderful image, like an uncle, a cool uncle. I think he may have said uncles who arrive with CDs of all the latest music. Ingetani says, ever since marrying my Irish husband, the song by the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York, is the song that signals the festive season, especially now that we live in Europe. And this one from Sheldon, my favorite things, released in 1959 from The Sound of Music, is not about Christmas, but has become closely associated with the season. We heard somebody call for Black Box and Fantasy. Let's hear a snatch before we close.
Get down.
Earth, Wind and Fire did it better in my view. Just saying. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We've loved having you with us. It's coming up for 6 o'clock. Good evening.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, why S&P Global finally gave us a ratings upgrade and what we need to do next. Astral produces more chicken but warns bird flu is coming round more often. We Buy Cars confirms it's tightening prices because of Chinese imports but says it's becoming more agile. And Kasana Makate's new battle to now Keepers Please Call Me Money. And in your book review tonight, why we need new leaders. All of that to come. But first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Molapo. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says finishing touches are underway as South Africa prepares to host the G20 Leaders Summit. At the weekend, heads of state from the bloc and thousands of other delegates will meet in Johannesburg to finalize South Africa's G20 presidency. The country has spent a year preparing for the gathering, including policy discussions on how to address pressing global challenges. Government has come under fire for a cleanup campaign in parts of Johannesburg, including Sandton and Soweto, where the summit will be hosted. Lesufi says there's a long-term plan in place for refurbishing the city and the province.
There are others that are accusing us that we are just putting a lipstick on a pig, that this thing is going to collapse. We are not going into long, sustainable resolution to find everlasting solutions to it. And they are not aware the resources that we've amassed and the support that we're getting from national government.
He says he hopes the inclement weather doesn't reverse progress made so far.
For the first time, I always appreciate the rain. For the first time, I don't want rain because it reopens the potholes, it creates problems that need to be attended. So we're crossing our fingers that by Wednesday, the weather will behave, and on the basis of that, we'll be in a position to do the final touch-up.
We move to the Western Cape and the courts, where various versions of alleged Underworld gang boss Nafees Modak's name were used as evidence in court today to show he was behind the attempted murder of prominent defense attorney William Booth. Modak and 5 co-accused face charges of attempted murder after Booth survived a shooting at his Hechovale home 5 years ago. Modak admits he was hired to do a debt collection from one of Booth's clients, but denies being behind the incident. Carlo Peterson has more.
Evidence shows co-accused Zane Killian used various versions of Nafees Modak's name as references when he sent information about defense attorney William Booth allegedly to Modak. It's the state's case. Modak paid Killian to ping the whereabouts of Booth to plan an attempt on his life in April 2020. State prosecutor Greg Vormran showed the court how Killian used Mo, Nafees 3, Naf and other references allegedly for Modak.
I'm going to argue you are linked with the reference Mo, boss.
Modak denied receiving any information about Booth from Killian. Modak will be back in the dock tomorrow. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
The ANC says it will not tolerate any attempts by individuals to use money to buy their way into municipal councils. The party has released its guidelines for the upcoming local government elections, outlining the minimum criteria members must meet to qualify for seats in city council. In previous years, there have been allegations that some ANC members used patronage to secure higher placements on the party's candidate lists. During a briefing at Luthuli House today, ANC Electoral Committee Chairperson Kgalema Motlanthe emphasized that such conduct will not be tolerated.
To ensure that money plays no role in the candidate selection process, candidates and their supporters may not produce T-shirts, media, branding of any object, banners, pamphlets or posters. They may not engage in any campaign that relies on donations or spending own money.
He says disciplinary measures will be enforced against anyone who bribes their way into municipal councils.
Candidates found using money or dispensing patronage to buy votes will be disqualified from the candidate selection process and expelled from the ANC following internal disciplinary measures.
We move to the National Assembly, where Parliament says its delegation to the 30th Conference of the Parties will learn from best practices on how to mitigate the impact of climate change. The 10-member delegation comprises different political parties at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change taking place in Brazil. The summit is entering its second week, with countries wanting to establish how a global phase-out of fossil fuels could work. Babala Ndenza reports.
COP30 is the international forum where countries gather to find legally binding or non-binding courses of action to address the climate crisis. South Africa has been an active participant to represent the country's interests, like securing climate finance and how the country can address its own unique climate change challenges, like flooding disasters. The 10-member delegation comprises 5 members each from the National Assembly's Portfolio Committee on Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, and the National Council of Provinces Select Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Mineral Resources. Parliament spokesperson Moloto Motapo says South African MPs will have an opportunity to learn from the experiences and best practices of other parliaments in addressing climate change. He says through such engagements with their international counterparts, the country's lawmakers can gain valuable insights into innovative approaches to legislation, policy frameworks, and financing. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
And in the US, automaker Ford has announced a new partnership that will allow customers to browse and buy pre-owned vehicles from Amazon. The pre-owned vehicles will be sold by Ford's franchised dealers on the e-commerce platform. The automaker and the tech company announced today that the new program will let customers secure financing, start paperwork, and schedule a pickup time for vehicles at participating Ford dealers. The program will first be focused on Los Angeles, Seattle, and Dallas, and will initially offer only certified pre-owned vehicles, which are used models that pass through rigorous inspections and are sold with specific warranties. This makes Ford the second automaker after South Korean automaker Hyundai made a deal with Amazon that would allow auto dealers to sell their cars through its site more than a year ago. Gold's trading at $4,063.83 an ounce. The rand's at 17.11 to the dollar, at 22.54 to the pound, at 19.84 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.23 a barrel.
In your sport, Hugo Bruges guarantees Sipombule AFCON and World Cup spot if he continues to perform at club level. Ian Robin, now a professional paddle player, and Themba Bavuma says the Proteas beat India at their own game following their first test triumph.
And look at your weather. Cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 10 degrees and peak at highs of 20. Pretoria and Vereeniging are both at 11 and 22 degrees. Clear skies for the mother city, along with fresh southeasterly winds tomorrow at a low of 18 and a high of 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says finishing touches are underway as South Africa prepares to host the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
Well, at this hour in the Bryanston area heading towards Rudeport, there's a bumper-to-bumper traffic. Actually expect more than a 30-minute delay. This is on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and 14th Avenue. Also slow-moving traffic heading towards Midrand. That's in the Sandton area, M1 northbound. Between Marlborough Drive and the Between interchange. Also N3 South, we still have those roadworks in the Calvin Alex area causing heavy delays between the Between interchange and London Road. Travelling through Houghton heading towards the Joburg CBD, traffic remains heavily backed up. M1 southbound, expect about a 20-minute delay. That's between Killarney Bend and the Crown interchange. Also slow-moving traffic heading into Bedfordview. That's R24 westbound in the Edenvale area between Edenvale Road and the Kiluli's interchange. In the Mother City, accident scene causing delays on the N2 outbound approaching Rappenberg. Also slow-moving traffic M5 southbound. This is heading towards Pinelands. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP. 9 minutes after 6. Good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Stephen Grootes. I made a comment earlier today to 702's John Perlman that I suspect by the end of the week, even before Saturday starts, we're probably going to be tired of the number 20. And the number 20 has done nothing to me. It's done nothing to you. We're still going to be tired of it because we're going to hear so much of it. On the other hand, I do get a sense of anticipation as well. The B20, then the G20. There'll be a few other 20s between here now and then, I suspect. But it's kind of great to have everybody coming here. Lots of conversations, lots of interesting things to talk about. And a reminder perhaps that South Africa is still a player, still matters. And that for the moment, our story seems to be going in the right direction after the ratings upgrade by S&P Global late on Friday night. It was kind of 50-50 as to whether it would happen. And I remember so clearly hearing the analysis that if it wasn't going to happen on Friday, it would certainly happen early next year. Plenty of questions about what happens next, including what we need to do to ensure that we do get another upgrade and at least two more from here and back into the kind of investment grade. And I remember sort of, so clearly the events that led to us being downgraded and downgraded again, and what happened with Pravin Gordhan being fired, and when was it, April Fool's Day, Malusi Gigaba being appointed finance minister. And I remember even more clearly where it kind of all started, which I suppose was the firing of Nhlanhla Nene, really, if you think about it. Anyway, thinking about all of that, we will talk a bit more about the upgrades. Nisha Pakrasamy and Kevin Lings on your radio in about 5 minutes. Before that, the Astral CEO, Gary Arnold, talking about their results. They made more chicken. They produced more chicken, I should say, but also, of course, still very difficult to run a chicken business in South Africa. We buy cars. You may remember we spoke to Van der Walt a couple of weeks ago. Their share price had just tanked. They had put out an outlook warning about how it was that it seemed demand for second-hand cars was slowing, partly because there are so many cheaper Chinese new cars entering the market. They had their full results out today. Also, before 7 o'clock, Jan Vermeulen from My Broadband, the sort of latest battle around the Please Call Me Money. One of the strange stories about this is that a British investor called Errol Elston claims that Mokata owes him 40% of the money that he got. But Elston doesn't know how much it was. Remember, Shamil Yusuf last week wouldn't tell us how much it was? I mean, it's such a strange story. Good to hear from you tonight. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. And your voice notes, please. The one thing you would do now, if you were in government or had any influence to ensure that we got another ratings upgrade, where would you start? What would be the most important thing you would do? 072 702 1702. 12 minutes after 6.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
The poultry producer Astral able to report strong results today. Operating profits up by nearly 11%. It's produced more chicken. That means they're able to bring down production costs. The group is warning, though, that South Africa's economic outlook's likely to be constrained and that bird flu may no longer be a seasonal disease. The CEO at Astral is Gary Arnold. Gary, good evening. You were able to produce quite a bit more chicken. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and to your listeners. Stephen, we were fortunate, on the back of our expansion in production or capacity that we commissioned in 2020, we had spare capacity in our operations. And, we were able to bring it on stream fairly quickly with a lead time of about 2 months. So that decision was made earlier in the year. The past festive period, we sold a lot of product out of stock, so we had well manageable stock levels and brought more volumes to production in line with really a well-balanced market in terms of supply and demand.
In other words, you're able to manage the stock that you had more effectively, and that saved you a bit of money. And I presume the more you produce, the more it brings down your cost per unit, your production cost.
Absolutely, Stephen. I mean, one needs to keep a close eye on the stock. Produce chicken and end up putting it, so one wants to sell it. And of course, those volumes through the same, overhead costs, fixed cost structure. At the end of the day, our per unit, per kilogram production cost came down and benefited from the higher volumes, and we were able to produce chicken at a more affordable price.
For many companies, load shedding is over, and that's really helped them. Your problems have often been around the Lekwa municipality. If I remember, you have to invest in your own systems. Is that still a difficult problem? I mean, does that have an impact on you, even though load shedding is over?
Yeah, it does, Stephen. Unfortunately, we know national load shedding is no longer an issue, but within the municipalities themselves, we still battle from time to time with the electricity supply on infrastructure that, is just, we haven't seen upkeep for many years. Water supply disruptions, so we, end up carting water to the factories. Or as in the case that we had last week with Lekwa municipality, not able to deliver clean potable water through the municipal supply system, which actually disrupted our processing capacity or volumes in Standerton last week. So we do suffer from those from time to time. And on average, a 10 million rand a month bill for diesel and to cart water around. So certainly not an ideal environment. That's 120 million rand a year and unnecessary costs for services that one should otherwise be provided by the municipality.
Sure. I mean, the difference to your bottom line would be huge. Your concern about bird flu, and you say there's slow progress on vaccination. Should that be moving more quickly? Where's the hold-up in that? Is it with you or is it with government?
Well, Stephen, they published guidelines for a vaccination strategy in November 2023, and we made application against those guidelines to vaccinate one farm, which represents about 5% of our total breeding stock, broiler breeding stock in the group. And we received approval to vaccinate that farm a few months ago. Now, that was 18 months after our initial application. So that was a very slow process, and we had to jump through the various hurdles in order to vaccinate, our breeding parent stock. Why we say there's slow progress is that, subsequent to us receiving that initial approval, we felt that the blueprint was in place and we had, complied with the various provisions of the guidelines as published by the Department of Agriculture. And it's now a good few months later. And in fact, we made the comment in our results as we were preparing for this week. But some good news was that late on Friday afternoon, we received permission to vaccinate a further 2 farms within our operations. So when we decide to do that, we will be able to vaccinate approximately a quarter of all our breeding stock. Which with the absence of compensation around bird flu, where you have to cull your livestock as a disease control measure, and in the absence of insurance, certainly vaccination makes up an important part of that toolkit to fight and combat the disease with all the other biosecurity protocols.
No, sure. I mean, clearly there seems to be an issue there. You say that bird flu may have changed, that it's not necessarily a seasonal disease anymore. Do you mean that it could happen more often?
Well, typically, we've seen classified as a winter disease, when in colder conditions. But what we're seeing around the world now, Stephen, particularly with H5N1, is that it's prevalent through the seasons. So the US and Europe are seeing it both winter, summer. They're having to cull birds that are infected with the disease in both winter and summer. And in South Africa, we've seen sporadic outbreaks of H5N1 now through our past winter season. But unfortunately, even in the last week, there was a reported case in KwaZulu-Natal with high summer temperatures at the moment. So certainly, by no means just a winter disease anymore. And that's why we caution, we have to keep our guard up throughout the year. We're going to have to manage this as an ever-present threat, and certainly not just, consider it during winter. I think it's something that requires vigilance throughout the year now.
Sure. I mean, that would be a big change. We're expecting a bumper maize harvest. That would keep your feed prices lower, probably. That have a big impact going forward, do you think?
Certainly. I think that benefited feed prices in the second half of the year we're reporting on. We had we had positioned ourselves well in the market, even through that volatile maize, Safex maize market that one saw through the past year. And going forward, I mean, Safex maize prices have dropped off considerably in the past couple of months. It's given us an opportunity to position ourselves and certainly benefit feed prices going forward, or at least support a maize price or feed price which we can produce chicken at, Stephen.
Gary Arnold, the CEO at Astral, thank you very much indeed for your time on The Money Show.
702.
702.
Stephen is on X.
At Stephen Grootes.
19 after 6. Well, confirmation, of course, late on Friday night about the ratings upgrade from S&P Global. Our first ratings upgrade in over 20 years. Government making progress in paring down debt. Obviously, big progress in dealing with load shedding and logistics. Kevin Lings is the chief economist at Stanlib Asset Management. Kevin, good evening. Finally, some things are going right.
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, it was good news. Obviously, we're still well below investment grade, but the direction of travel is